She fell in love with the devil, and he went to war for her soul. When a desperate waitress shatters a plate in front of Chicago's most feared mafia king, she ignites an obsession that will burn the city to ashes. Damiano Castelli has never wanted anything he couldn't take until Selina Vale refuses him. Now families will betray. Blood will spill. And the question isn't whether love can survive in a world built on violence. It's whether anything can survive when the devil finally learns to care. Stay until the end. Hit that like button. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The rain came down like God himself had opened a vein over Chicago. Selina Vale felt it hammering against the kitchen's back door, where she stood in Belladonna's service corridor, cigarette smoke curling from her trembling fingers, even though she'd quit smoking 3 months ago. The debt collectors had called again. Fourth time this week. Her mother's medical bills weren't going anywhere except deeper into collections, and the cremation service wanted another payment, or she couldn't think about that. Not while balancing plates worth more than her monthly rent. Vale, table 6 needs their entrees 5 minutes ago. Marco's voice cracked through the kitchen chaos like a whip. Selina crushed the cigarette under her worn sneaker and grabbed the tray. Ossobuco for the judge, veal piccata for his mistress. Risotto for the alderman everyone knew took bribes from the construction unions. Belladonna fed Chicago's powerful the way zookeepers fed lions, carefully, respectfully, and with the knowledge that one wrong move meant blood. The dining room glittered like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across white marble floors. Oil paintings of Tuscan vineyards hung between floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. Old money sat beside new corruption, everyone pretending they belonged to the same world. Selina knew better. She'd been serving the city's elite for 2 years, ever since her mother got sick, long enough to recognize the hierarchy. The politicians sat near the windows where photographers could catch them looking important. The lawyers claimed the booths along the east wall. And the center tables, the ones with the best sight lines and closest proximity to both exits, those belonged to men whose business cards said consultant or entrepreneur, but whose eyes said something else entirely. Table 6 was easy. Judge Morrison barely looked at her while she arranged his plate. His companion, a blonde half his age wearing a necklace that could have paid off Selina's debt twice over, didn't acknowledge her existence. Invisible. That's what waitresses were to people like this. Ghosts in black aprons who materialized with food and vanished the moment the need disappeared. Selina preferred it that way. She was clearing the judge's appetizer plates when the front entrance opened and the temperature in Belladonna dropped 20 degrees. Conversations didn't stop exactly. That would have been too obvious. But they stumbled, hesitated. Words caught in throats as heads turned with the careful casualness of prey animals confirming the presence of a predator. Selina glanced toward the door. 3 men entered first. Wall of muscle types in dark suits that didn't quite hide the bulges under their jackets. They moved with the coordinated efficiency of trained soldiers, scanning the room with dead eyes that cataloged exits, threats, and weaknesses in the span of a heartbeat. Then he walked in. Damiano Castelli didn't look like a monster. That was the first thing Selina noticed. No scars, no broken nose or knuckles scarred from street fights. Just a tall man in his early 30s wearing a black wool coat that probably cost more than her car, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have belonged to a movie star if not for the eyes. Those eyes were wrong, cold, calculating, the kind of eyes that looked at the world like a chessboard where every piece was expendable. Marco materialized at Selina's elbow, his voice barely a whisper. That's Damiano Castelli. I know who he is. Everyone in Chicago knew. The newspapers called him a businessman. The FBI called him a person of interest. The streets called him king. His father, Giovanni Castelli, had controlled half of Chicago's underworld until he vanished during a gang war 3 years ago. Some said he fled to Sicily. Others said he was buried in the foundations of one of the new developments going up in the West Loop. Damiano had inherited an empire, and within 6 months the bodies stopped piling up because anyone stupid enough to challenge him simply disappeared. His usual table, Marco muttered, already moving. Don't stare. But Selina was already staring. Damiano moved through the restaurant like he owned it, which, according to rumor, he did. Owned this and half the legitimate businesses in downtown Chicago, along with most of the illegitimate ones. His security fanned out, taking positions near the exits, while Damiano himself walked toward the center table that had somehow emptied in the 30 seconds since he'd entered. The maitre d', Vincent, a man who'd made senators wait 45 minutes for a table, practically bowed. Selina turned away, lifting her tray of empty plates. That's when she saw him. Tommy Rizzo, low-level enforcer for the Barone family, sitting 3 tables away with his back to Damiano's entrance, too focused on his date to notice death walking up behind him. Selina's stomach dropped. The Baronis and Castellis had been at each other's throats for months. Everyone knew it. Territorial dispute over the shipping contracts at the ports, whispers of a broken alliance, bodies turning up in vacant lots with messages carved into skin. And here was Tommy Rizzo eating truffle pasta in Damiano Castelli's restaurant. Either he was stupid, suicidal, or making a point. Selina started moving toward the kitchen. Not her business. Not her problem. She was invisible, remember? Just a waitress trying to survive another shift. Her heel caught the edge of a floor tile. The tray tilted. She grabbed for it, too late, and watched in horror as 6 plates of bone china slid sideways and exploded against the marble floor with a sound like a car crash. The entire restaurant went silent, not the hesitant quiet from before. This was complete, suffocating silence. Every conversation died. Every fork stopped halfway to every mouth. Even the kitchen noise seemed to cut off as though someone had thrown a switch. Selina stood frozen in the center of the dining room, surrounded by shattered porcelain and splattered food, feeling 200 eyes land on her like searchlights, including his. Damiano Castelli's gaze locked onto her with the focused intensity of a sniper acquiring a target. For 3 heartbeats, Selina couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only stand there like an idiot while her brain screamed at her to apologize, to clean it up, to disappear into the floor. Then his expression shifted. Not anger. Not irritation. Something else, something that made her skin prickle with instinctive warning. Recognition. But that was impossible. Selina had never met Damiano Castelli, never even been in the same room with him before tonight, yet he was looking at her like he knew her, like he'd been searching for her. Signorina. His voice cut through the silence, low, controlled, with just enough Italian accent to make it sound dangerous. You're bleeding. Selina glanced down. Blood welled from a cut on her palm where she'd grabbed at the falling tray and caught broken china instead. She hadn't even felt it. I'm fine. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. I apologize for the disruption. I'll clean this immediately. Leave it. Not a suggestion. A command. Selina's spine stiffened. She'd spent 2 years being invisible, taking orders from entitled assholes who treated her like furniture. But something about the casual assumption in Damiano's voice, the certainty that she would obey simply because he'd spoken, made her want to grab a broom just to prove him wrong. It's my mess, she said. I'll handle it. One of his security guys stepped forward, hand moving inside his jacket. Damiano stopped him with a gesture so small Selina almost missed it. Just 2 fingers, a tiny movement that froze 250 pounds of muscle, like someone had cut his strings. What's your name? Damiano asked. That's not relevant. Humor me. Selina Vale, and I really need to clean this up before someone gets hurt. Selina. He said her name like he was tasting it, testing how it felt in his mouth. You work here long? 2 years. Then you know who I am. Everyone knows who you are, Mr. Castelli. And yet you're standing there arguing with me instead of doing what you're told. Something that might have been amusement flickered in those cold eyes. That's either very brave or very stupid. Probably stupid, Selina admitted. But I still need to clean this up. People are trying to eat. Marco appeared at her shoulder like a ghost, his face 3 shades paler than normal. Mr. Castelli, please accept our sincerest apologies. This is completely unacceptable. Selina will be disciplined, and of course your meal tonight is complimentary. I didn't ask you. Damiano's gaze never left Selina's face. I asked her. The weight of his attention felt physical, oppressive, like standing too close to a fire and feeling your skin start to cook before the pain registered. Selina's cut hand throbbed. Blood dripped onto the white marble, mixing with the shattered remains of plates that cost more than her weekly paycheck. She should apologize. should bow her head and shuffle backward like Marco was doing, should remember that arguing with Chicago's most feared mob boss was an excellent way to end up in the Chicago River wearing concrete shoes. Instead, she looked Damiano Castelli directly in the eyes and said, "Are you going to let me clean this up, or are we going to stand here all night while your dinner gets cold?" The silence that followed felt like the moment before lightning strikes. Then Damiano smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Nothing warm or reassuring about it. It was the smile of a shark who'd just spotted something interesting swimming in his territory. "Clean it up," he said. "But wrap that hand first. You're dripping on my floor." His floor, of course it was. Selena grabbed the first aid kit from behind the bar while Marco scrambled to get a busboy to handle the broken plates. She wrapped her palm in gauze with shaking hands that had nothing to do with the cut and everything to do with the way Damiano Castelli kept watching her from his table. Not watching, studying, like she was a puzzle he intended to solve. The rest of the shift blurred. Selena moved through her tables on autopilot, smiling at customers she didn't see, delivering food she didn't remember picking up. Her awareness had narrowed to a single point. The man at the center table who ate his braised short rib with the precise movements of someone who'd learned table manners in expensive boarding schools, surrounded by bodyguards who looked like they'd learned their manners in prison yards. Twice she caught him looking at her. 3 times she felt his attention like a weight between her shoulder blades, even when she couldn't see him. By the time his party finished their espresso and tiramisu, Selena's nerves were scraped raw. She retreated to the kitchen, busying herself with side work that didn't need doing, avoiding the dining room until Vincent came through the doors with a white envelope. "Castelli left this for you." Selena's stomach dropped. "What?" "A tip. He was very specific that you should receive it personally." Vincent's expression was unreadable. "You made quite an impression." The envelope was thick, heavy. Selena opened it with clumsy fingers and found a stack of $100 bills that had to add up to at least $2,000. More than she made in a month. Enough to make a serious dent in the debt crushing her. A handwritten note was tucked between the bills. Heavy cardstock, expensive ink, handwriting that looked like it came from another century. For the brave or stupid girl who argued with the devil. DC. Selena stared at the money for a long moment. She should give it back, should throw it away, should recognize it for what it was, a hook, a lure, the first step in something that would end badly. But her mother's cremation bill was due in 3 days, and the debt collectors had started making threats about her apartment. And $2,000 was $2,000. She folded the envelope and shoved it deep into her apron pocket, telling herself it didn't mean anything. Just a generous tip from a wealthy customer. Nothing more complicated than that. She almost believed it. Until she left through the back entrance 3 hours later and found a black Mercedes idling in the alley. The rear window rolled down. Damiano Castelli looked out at her from the leather interior, and even in the dim light from the security lamp, his eyes were sharp enough to cut. "Get in." Selena's hand tightened on her bag. "I don't think so. That wasn't a request." "Then I'm definitely not getting in." She started walking toward the street, toward the bus stop 6 blocks away, toward safety and normalcy and a life that didn't involve the back seats of expensive cars. The Mercedes rolled forward, keeping pace. "You live in Pilsen," Damiano said. 40-minute bus ride this time of night, longer in the rain. I can have you home in 15 minutes. "How do you know where I live?" "I know everything about you, Selena Vale. 24 years old, no father listed on your birth certificate. Mother died 4 months ago from pancreatic cancer. Medical debt currently sitting at $63,000. Working 2 jobs, still barely making rent. You're drowning, and nobody's throwing you a rope." Selena stopped walking. The Mercedes stopped with her. "You had me investigated." "It wasn't a question. I investigate everyone who interests me. I'm not interesting. I'm a waitress who dropped some plates. You're a woman who looked me in the eye and told me no." Damiano leaned forward, and for the first time Selena saw something besides cold calculation in his expression. Curiosity. Real, genuine curiosity. "Do you know how rare that is?" "Probably because most people have functioning survival instincts." "Probably." He gestured to the empty seat beside him. "Get in the car, Selena. I'll take you home. No strings, no obligations. Just a ride on a rainy night from someone who admires your bravery." Or stupidity. Or stupidity, he agreed, and that shark smile was back. Every rational thought Selena possessed screamed at her to run, to flag down a cab, to walk 6 blocks in the rain if necessary, because getting into that car meant crossing a line she couldn't uncross. But the rain was coming down harder now, and her shoes had holes in them, and $63,000 was a number so big it didn't feel real anymore. Selena opened the door and slid into the back seat of the Mercedes. The interior smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Damiano sat across from her, separated by maybe 3 feet of space that felt like 3 inches. This close, she could see the details her brain had skipped over in the restaurant: the small scar above his left eyebrow, the calluses on his knuckles that expensive suits couldn't hide, the way he held himself with the coiled readiness of someone who'd learned violence young and never forgotten it. The car pulled smoothly into traffic. "You didn't have to tip me $2,000, Selena said. "I know." "I can't accept it." "You already did. I'll give it back." "No, you won't." Damiano's certainty was infuriating. "You'll use it to pay your mother's cremation bill, maybe catch up on rent, buy yourself a pair of shoes without holes." Selena's face burned. "You don't know anything about me. I know you're exhausted. I know you work doubles at Belladonna 3 nights a week and morning shifts at that cafe in Bridgeport the other 4 days. I know you quit medical school when your mother got sick and haven't been back since. I know you're surviving on 4 hours of sleep and stubbornness." He paused. "And I know you're too proud to ask for help even when you're drowning. Why do you care?" "I don't know yet." The honesty in his voice surprised her more than anything else he'd said. No smooth lies, no charming deflection, just flat admission that he couldn't explain his own behavior. They drove in silence for several blocks. Chicago slid past the windows, neon signs reflecting in puddles, late-night diners still serving coffee to insomniacs, homeless guys huddled under highway overpasses. The city looked different from inside a Mercedes. Distant, like watching a movie instead of living in it. "My mother never asked for help either," Damiano said suddenly. "Even when my father's business consumed everything, even when she knew what he was, she just kept her head up and pretended we were a normal family living a normal life." "Were you?" "No. Simple. Final. But she pretended well enough that I almost believed it when I was young." Selena studied his profile. "Is she still alive?" "Yes. Living in a house overlooking Lake Michigan, hosting charity events, pretending her son runs legitimate businesses." That cold smile again. "She's very good at pretending." "And your father?" "Gone." The word carried weight. Finality. Selena didn't ask for clarification because she didn't want to know if gone meant dead or disappeared or buried in a place nobody would ever find. The Mercedes turned onto her street. Row houses built in the 20s, now chopped into apartments and rented to people like Selena, who couldn't afford better. Her building was third from the corner, identifiable by the broken security light and the air conditioning unit hanging precariously from a second-floor window. The car pulled to the curb. "Thank you for the ride," Selena said, reaching for the door handle. Damiano caught her wrist. Not hard, not painful, just enough pressure to stop her movement. His skin was warm against hers, and when she looked down, she could see the edge of a tattoo disappearing under his cuff. Latin words she couldn't quite make out. "I want to see you again," he said. "That's not a good idea." "I didn't ask if it was a good idea. I said I want to see you again." "And I'm saying no." His thumb traced a slow circle over her pulse point. "Why?" "Because I've seen enough true crime documentaries to know how this ends." Damiano laughed, a short, genuine sound that transformed his face for half a second, made him look younger, almost human. "You think I'm going to murder you?" "I think you're dangerous. I think getting involved with you would complicate my life in ways I can't afford. And I think if I had any sense, I'd return your money, thank you for the ride, and forget this conversation ever happened. But you're not going to do that." "No," Selena admitted. "I'm not, because I need the money too badly, and I'm apparently willing to compromise my principles for $2,000. Everyone compromises their principles eventually, usually for a lot less." He released her wrist. "I'll send a car for you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. I have to work." Call in sick. I can't afford to. I'll cover your lost wages. Double. Selena stared at him. You're insane. Probably. He leaned back, shadows from the streetlight carving his face into sharp angles. But I'm also the only person offering to pull you out of the hole you're drowning in. So tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, wear something nice. And if I say no, then I'll respect your decision and you'll never see me again. His expression said he didn't believe for a second she would refuse. But we both know you're not going to say no. The arrogance should have pissed her off. Instead, it just made her tired. Because he was right. Selena got out of the car without another word and climbed the steps to her building. She didn't look back, but she felt his attention following her all the way to the door. Heard the Mercedes pull away only after she'd safely entered the lobby. Her apartment was on the 3rd floor. 1 bedroom, bathroom the size of a closet, kitchen that barely fit a person, and a microwave simultaneously. But it was hers, or would be until she missed another rent payment. Selena dropped her bag on the counter and pulled out Damiano's envelope. $2,000 in cash. Blood money, probably. Payment from an empire built on suffering. She should burn it, should walk to the nearest police station and tell them everything, should do literally anything except what she was about to do. Instead, Selena counted out the bills and sealed them in an envelope addressed to the cremation service. Her mother would have been disappointed, but her mother was dead. And Selena was still here, still surviving, still making impossible choices because they were the only choices available. She fell asleep on the couch, still wearing her work clothes, too exhausted to shower, too wired to fully relax. Her dreams were full of cold eyes and expensive cars and the feeling of drowning in water that looked like money. When she woke 6 hours later, there was a text from an unknown number. The car will arrive at 8. Don't be late. D. Selena stared at her phone for a long time. Then she opened her closet and started looking for something nice to wear. Because Damiano Castelli was right about one thing. She wasn't going to say no. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that terrified her more than anything else. The cafe in Bridgeport where Selena worked mornings was called Maria's. It had been serving coffee and pastries to the neighborhood for 40 years, run by the same family the entire time. The espresso machine was older than Selena. The tiles were cracked. The regulars all had their own mugs hanging on hooks behind the counter. It was the opposite of Belladonna in every way that mattered. Selena liked it better. You look like hell, Maria said when Selena dragged herself through the door at 6 a.m. Thanks. You really know how to make a girl feel special. I know how to tell when a girl stayed up all night making bad decisions. Maria was 65, 4'10", and had raised 5 kids in the apartment above the cafe. Nothing got past her. So what's his name? There's no his. Honey, there's always a his. You've got that look. Selena tied on her apron and started the morning prep. Brewing coffee, arranging pastries in the display case, wiping down tables that didn't need wiping because her hands needed something to do. The morning rush was predictable. Construction workers grabbing coffee before their shifts, nurses from the hospital down the street, retired guys who came in for breakfast and stayed until lunch, nursing 1 cup of coffee and arguing about the Cubs. Normal. Safe. Everything Damiano Castelli's world wasn't. At noon, Maria sent her home early. You're falling asleep on your feet. Go. Get some rest before your shift tonight. Selena should have argued, should have stayed for the lunch rush, but exhaustion had sunk into her bones, and the thought of Belladonna, of seeing Damiano again, of navigating whatever game he was playing, made her want to crawl into bed and stay there. She took the bus home and climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, and stopped. Someone had been here, nothing obvious. The door was still locked, no signs of forced entry, but Selena had lived alone long enough to know when her space had been violated. Things were just slightly wrong. The angle of the kitchen chair, the position of her bag on the counter. Her heart hammered as she checked the bathroom, the bedroom, the closet. Nothing missing, nothing disturbed. Just the unmistakable sense that someone had been inside her home. On her bed, arranged carefully like a gift, was a garment bag she didn't own. Selena's hands shook as she unzipped it. Inside was a dress. Black silk, designer label she recognized from magazines she couldn't afford. Simple, elegant, devastating. The kind of dress that cost more than 3 months of her rent. A note was pinned to the hanger. Since you're wearing something nice tonight. Rage exploded through her exhaustion. Selena grabbed her phone and dialed the number from this morning's text. It rang twice. You broke into my apartment. Damiano's voice was amused. I had someone deliver a gift. That's not breaking in. How did they get past my locks? Locks are suggestions, Selena, not obstacles. This isn't charming. This isn't romantic. This is psychotic. I never claimed to be charming or romantic. A pause. The dress will look beautiful on you. I'm not wearing it. Yes, you will, because it fits perfectly, and you don't own anything else suitable for where we're going. Which is where, exactly? A surprise. I hate surprises. You'll like this one. His voice dropped, became something darker, more intimate. 8 o'clock, Selena. Don't make me wait. He hung up before she could respond. Selena stood in her apartment, holding a phone and a dress that probably cost more than her car, feeling the walls of her normal life collapsing around her. She should call the police, should pack a bag and disappear, should do anything except what every instinct was screaming at her to avoid. Instead, she hung the dress carefully in her closet and set an alarm for 7 p.m. Because somewhere between the broken plates and the Mercedes ride and the violation of her personal space, Selena had made a choice. Maybe not consciously, maybe not wisely, but a choice nonetheless. She was going to see where this led, even if it killed her. At exactly 8 p.m., a black Mercedes pulled up outside her building. Different car, same driver. Same sense of stepping into a world that operated by different rules than the one she'd been living in. Selena wore the dress because Damiano had been right. She didn't own anything else suitable. It fit like it had been made for her. Probably had been, she realized. He'd gotten her measurements somehow, added that to his file on her life. The driver opened her door without speaking. Professional. Distant. The kind of employee who'd learned not to ask questions. They drove north, away from her neighborhood, toward the part of Chicago where streets had names instead of numbers, and houses came with gates. The Castelli estate sat on 6 acres overlooking Lake Michigan. Selena's first glimpse of it through the car windows made her stomach drop. Not a house. A compound. Stone walls. Security cameras. Gardens maintained with military precision. And at the center, a mansion that looked like someone had airlifted it directly from Tuscany. The gates opened automatically as they approached. Are you kidding me? Selena muttered. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, but he said nothing. They parked in a circular driveway where a fountain sprayed water 20 feet in the air. Selena got out on legs that felt unsteady, suddenly aware of how far out of her depth she'd swum. The front doors opened. Damiano stood in the entrance, backlit by interior lights that made him look like something out of a movie. He'd changed since last night. Dark suit, no tie, white shirt open at the collar, casual elegance that probably took an hour to achieve. You came, he said. You didn't really give me a choice. There's always a choice. He descended the steps, and Selena was struck again by how he moved, controlled, deliberate, like every gesture had been calculated 3 moves ahead. You look stunning. You broke into my apartment. I had a dress delivered. Through locked doors. Details. He offered his arm. Are you coming inside, or are we going to argue in the driveway? Selena looked at the mansion, at the security cameras tracking their position, at the walls that seemed to grow taller the longer she stared. Then she looked at Damiano and took his arm. If I end up buried in your basement, I'm going to be very upset. I don't have a basement, he said. Wine cellar? Yes. Basement? No. That's not as reassuring as you think it is. He smiled and led her inside. The interior of the Castelli estate was exactly what Selena expected, and somehow worse. Marble everywhere, art that belonged in museums, furniture that looked like it cost more than her entire life. But it felt empty. Not physically. Every room they passed was full of objects, decorations, evidence of wealth, but empty of life. Like a stage set waiting for actors who'd never arrive. Damiano led her through a hallway lined with portraits. His ancestors, presumably, all stern-faced men and cold-eyed women who looked like they'd been born knowing how to hide bodies. Family history? Selena asked. Family mythology. Half of them probably weren't related to us, but the story sounds better with 4 generations of Castellis. They entered a dining room dominated by a table that could have seated 20. It was set for two. Crystal glasses. Fine china. Candles that probably cost more than Selena's monthly grocery budget. You did all this for dinner? I did all this to impress you. Damiano pulled out her chair. Is it working? It's terrifying. I'll take that as a yes. Selena sat because standing felt too confrontational. Damiano took the seat across from her, close enough for conversation, far enough for safety. A server appeared from nowhere with wine, poured without asking, disappeared just as silently. You have staff living here? Selena asked. Security, housekeepers, chef? They keep themselves scarce when I request privacy. How often do you request privacy? Often enough that they know to disappear when there's a woman in the house. Selena picked up her wine glass and took a drink that was probably too big for whatever expensive vintage filled it. How many women do you bring here? None. You're the first in 3 years. I don't believe you. I don't care if you believe me. It's still true. Damiano leaned back, studying her with that unnerving intensity. I don't bring people into my private space, Selena. Not women. Not business associates. Not family. This is where I come to be alone. Then why am I here? Because I wanted you here. He said it like the answer should have been obvious. Because the moment you looked at me in that restaurant and refused to apologize for existing, I knew I needed to understand who you were. I'm nobody. If you were nobody, I wouldn't have spent the last 24 hours thinking about you. The admission hung between them like a confession. Selena should have felt flattered. Instead, she felt trapped. What do you want from me? I don't know yet. Damiano's honesty was more disturbing than any lie would have been. Conversation, maybe. Company. A chance to sit across from someone who isn't afraid to tell me when I'm being an asshole. You're being an asshole. See? Perfect. Despite everything, the breaking and entering, the manipulation, the casual display of wealth and power, Selena laughed. Damiano's expression shifted, softened. For just a moment, he looked almost human. The dinner that followed was surreal. Food appeared in courses Selena couldn't name, prepared by a chef she never saw. Damiano asked questions about her life with genuine curiosity, and Selena found herself answering despite her better judgment. They talked about her mother, about medical school, about the crushing weight of debt and the small rebellions that made surviving bearable. In return, Damiano offered carefully edited stories about his own life. Growing up in a house where business was discussed in code at the dinner table, learning early that trust was currency and loyalty was purchased, not given. Watching his father build an empire and then vanish into it. He never said the word mafia, never admitted what everyone knew, but it hovered over the conversation like smoke. By the time dessert arrived, some elaborate creation involving chocolate and gold leaf, Selena had drunk too much wine and forgotten to be terrified. Damiano walked her through the house afterward, showing her rooms she'd never see again. A library with first editions behind glass, a music room with a piano nobody played, a conservatory full of plants maintained by gardeners who came twice a week. It's lonely, Selena said. They were standing in the conservatory, surrounded by green things that thrived despite the lack of human attention. What is? This house. Your life. All this space and nobody to fill it. Damiano didn't deny it. My father believed power required isolation, he said quietly, that every relationship was a potential weakness. Every person you cared about was leverage someone could use against you. Do you believe that? I did. He looked at her, and something in his expression made Selena's breath catch. I'm not sure anymore. The air between them changed, became heavier, charged with something Selena couldn't name but recognized anyway. Damiano stepped closer, not threatening, just present, taking up space in a way that made Selena acutely aware of her own body. Her pulse, her breathing, the dress touching her skin. I should go home, she whispered. Why? Because this is a terrible idea. Probably. His hand came up, fingers tracing the line of her jaw with devastating gentleness. But you're still here. That doesn't mean... He kissed her, slow, deliberate. The kind of kiss that wasn't about passion or urgency, but about claiming, marking territory, establishing ownership. Selena should have pulled away, should have slapped him, Should have done literally anything except kiss him back. But she did kiss him back, because for 3 months she'd been drowning, working double shifts, watching her mother die by inches, carrying debt that would probably follow her to her own grave. And in all that time, nobody had touched her with anything resembling gentleness. Damiano Castelli might be a monster, but his hands were gentle, and Selina was so tired of being alone. When they finally broke apart, his forehead rested against hers, his breathing as unsteady as her own. "Stay," he said. "I can't." "Why not?" "Because I know how this story ends, Damiano. The girl falls for the dangerous man, gets pulled into his world, becomes collateral damage when his enemies come calling." Selina stepped back, putting necessary distance between them. "I've already lost too much. I can't afford to lose myself too." Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. "I'll have someone drive you home." "Just like that?" "You said no. I'm respecting that." He straightened his jacket, and the vulnerability she'd glimpsed disappeared behind cold control. "But this isn't over, Selina. You know that, right?" "It has to be." "Why?" "Because I'm not strong enough to survive you." Damiano smiled, that shark smile that wasn't a smile at all. "Yes, you are. That's why I can't let you go." The car ride home was silent. Selina sat in the back of the Mercedes, still tasting Damiano on her lips, still feeling the ghost of his hands on her skin, while Chicago blurred past the windows. Her apartment felt smaller after the estate, emptier, like returning to a cell after glimpsing the outside world. She should have felt relieved, safe. Instead, she felt the absence of something she'd barely had time to recognize. Selina changed out of the dress and hung it carefully in her closet, next to the 3 other outfits she owned. Washed her face, brushed her teeth, went through all the normal motions of a normal night. But nothing felt normal anymore. Her phone buzzed at midnight. A text from Damiano's number. "Thank you for tonight." Selina stared at the message for a long time before responding. "This can't happen again." His reply came immediately. "We'll see." She should have blocked the number, should have deleted the message, should have drawn a line and refused to cross it. Instead, Selina climbed into bed and dreamed of empty mansions and men with cold eyes who kissed like they were drowning. 3 days passed. Selina worked her shifts at Maria's and Belladonna, paid her mother's cremation bill with Damiano's money, tried to convince herself that one dinner didn't mean anything, that the kiss had been a mistake, that she could go back to her normal life and forget the whole thing. She almost believed it. Until the flowers arrived. Not a bouquet. A garden's worth. Delivered to both her apartment and the cafe. Orchids, roses, lilies, exotic things that didn't belong in her world. No card, no message. Just flowers that said, "I'm still thinking about you." Maria raised an eyebrow when the 3rd delivery arrived at the cafe. "So there is a his. It's complicated. Honey, it's always complicated. Question is whether it's worth the complication." Selina didn't have an answer. The 4th day, a package arrived. Small box, expensive wrapping. Inside was a new phone. Top of the line. Pre-programmed with 1 number. Selina called it. "You're not making this easy," she said when Damiano answered. "I'm not trying to make it easy. I'm trying to make it impossible to ignore." "Why?" "Because I haven't stopped thinking about you since you walked out of my house." His voice was low, intense. "Because I've built an empire on control, and you're the first thing in 10 years I can't control." "I'm not a thing to be controlled." "I know. That's the problem." Selina sat on her bed, surrounded by flowers that were already starting to wilt, holding a phone that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "What do you want, Damiano?" "I want to see you again. We've been through this. Humor me. One more dinner, public place, no pressure, just 2 people having a meal. And if I say no, then I'll respect that. But you won't say no." His certainty was infuriating and accurate. "When?" Selina asked, hating herself a little. "Tonight. I'll send a car." "No, I'll meet you there." "Tell me where." A pause. Then, "Bella Luna, 8 o'clock. I'll have a table." Bella Luna was expensive but public, downtown, the kind of place where witnesses would notice if she disappeared. Safe, in theory. "Fine," Selina said, "but this is the last time." Damiano laughed softly. Keep telling yourself that, cara mia. He hung up before she could argue. Selina looked at the dress still hanging in her closet, looked at the flowers dying on her kitchen counter, looked at her reflection in the bathroom mirror and saw someone she barely recognized anymore. 3 weeks ago, she'd been drowning. Now she was letting a shark pull her deeper. And the worst part? She wasn't sure she wanted to be saved. At 7:45, Selina took the bus downtown wearing the only decent outfit she owned that wasn't the dress Damiano had given her. Her heart hammered the entire ride. This was a mistake. A massive, potentially life-ending mistake. But she was doing it anyway, because Damiano Castelli had looked at her like she mattered, and it had been so long since anyone had done that. Bella Luna was elegant without being ostentatious. White tablecloths, soft lighting, the kind of restaurant where power was discussed in whispers over wine that cost more than most people's car payments. Damiano was already there. He stood when she approached, and Selina noticed the other diners tracking his movement, recognizing him, pretending they didn't. "You came," he said, "against my better judgment." That seems to be a pattern with us. They sat, ordered, made small talk about nothing while the real conversation happened in the spaces between words. Selina noticed his security position throughout the restaurant, noticed the way the staff treated him with deference that bordered on fear, noticed everything she'd been trying to ignore. "How many people have you killed?" she asked suddenly. Damiano didn't flinch. "Does it matter?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I need to know what I'm getting into." He set down his wine glass, looked at her with those cold, calculating eyes that occasionally showed glimpses of something human. "I've made decisions that resulted in people dying," he said carefully. "I've given orders knowing what the consequences would be. I've built my life on a foundation that requires violence to maintain." "That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're going to get." His expression hardened. "You want me to confess? Give you a number you can judge me by? It doesn't work that way. The world I live in doesn't have clean lines. There are only choices, consequences, and survival. And the people who don't survive your choices? Were making their own choices. Nobody forced them into this life." Selina sat back, feeling sick. "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise I couldn't live with myself." The honesty was brutal, and somehow made him more real. Their food arrived, but Selina had lost her appetite. "I should go," she said. "Wait." Damiano reached across the table but didn't touch her, just let his hand rest there. An offer. "I'm not asking you to absolve me. I'm not asking you to pretend I'm something I'm not. I'm just asking for a chance to let you see the parts of me that aren't defined by violence. And if those parts don't exist, then you walk away and I don't follow." Selina looked at his hand, at the scars on his knuckles, at the evidence of a life lived in ways she couldn't imagine. She should walk away. Right now. Before this went any further. Instead, she placed her hand in his. "One chance," she said, "but I need honesty. No games, no manipulation, just the truth, even when it's ugly. Deal." They ate dinner, talked about safer things. And when Damiano walked her outside afterward, he didn't try to kiss her, just stood on the sidewalk looking at her like she was something fragile he didn't quite know how to hold. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "I don't know." "That's not a no." "It's not a yes either." "I'll take it." He stepped back. "Good night, Selina." She watched him walk to his car, watched his security fall into formation around him, watched him disappear into the Mercedes like a king returning to his castle. Then she took the bus home, alone, confused, and already counting the hours until he called again. Because somewhere between the broken plates and the stolen kisses and the terrifying honesty, Selina had made a choice she couldn't take back. She was falling for the devil, and he was falling right back. Which meant when the angels came calling, and they always did, someone was going to burn. The question was whether she'd survive the fire. The war started quietly, not with gunfire or blood, but with a phone call Selina shouldn't have answered. She was pulling a double at Belladonna when her new phone, the one Damiano had sent, vibrated in her apron pocket. The screen showed an unknown number, not Damiano's. Someone else who'd gotten access to a device only one person was supposed to have. Selina stepped into the service corridor and answered. Silence. Then breathing. Then a woman's voice, refined and cold as winter in the Rockies. Miss Vale? We haven't been formally introduced, but I believe you know my son. Selina's blood went ice cold. Who is this? Viviana Castelli, and I think it's time we had a conversation about your future. The line went dead before Selina could respond. She stood in the corridor, heart hammering, while the dinner rush chaos continued on the other side of the wall. Marco was shouting about table 8. Someone dropped a tray in the kitchen. The espresso machine screamed like a dying animal. Normal sounds from a normal night, but nothing felt normal anymore. Selina's hands shook as she shoved the phone back into her pocket and returned to work. She moved through the rest of her shift on autopilot, smiling at customers she didn't see, delivering food she didn't taste, while her mind spun in circles. Viviana Castelli had her number, which meant she knew about the dinners, about the flowers, about everything. And she'd made contact not to threaten, but to arrange a meeting. That was somehow worse than threats. At midnight, after the last customer had left and the kitchen had been cleaned, Selina found another message on her phone. Not from Viviana this time. From Damiano. My mother called you. I'm sorry. Please don't do anything until we talk. Selina stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. How did she get this number? I don't know. But I'm going to find out. She wants to meet. Don't. Not without me there. Selina's thumb hovered over the keyboard. Every rational instinct screamed at her to walk away, to block both numbers, to quit Belladonna and disappear into a different part of Chicago where the Castelli name meant nothing. Instead, she typed, I can handle myself. That's what I'm afraid of. She didn't respond, just turned off the phone and took the bus home through streets that looked different now. Darker, full of shadows that might contain watchers, cars that might be following, threats hiding in plain sight, paranoia probably, or survival instinct finally kicking in. Her apartment felt smaller than ever when she climbed the 3 flights and locked herself inside. Selina checked the windows twice, tested the door locks, moved a chair against the handle like that would stop anyone who wanted to get in. Then she sat on her bed and stared at her phone until her eyes burned. At 2 a.m., it rang again. Different number, still unknown. Selina answered because she was too wired to sleep anyway. Miss Vale? Viviana's voice carried the kind of authority that came from generations of wealth and power. I apologize for calling so late, but I think we both know this conversation can't wait. What do you want? To meet. Tomorrow afternoon. There's a cafe on the Gold Coast called Arabica. Do you know it? I can find it. 2 o'clock. Come alone. A pause that carried weight. I'm not going to hurt you, Miss Vale. I simply want to understand who you are. And if I refuse, then you'll never know what I was prepared to offer you. The line went dead again. Selina dropped the phone like it had burned her and pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw stars. This was insane. Meeting Damiano's mother without telling him was exactly the kind of stupid decision that got people killed in movies. But curiosity ate at her like acid. What could Viviana possibly offer that would be worth a face-to-face meeting? Selina already knew the answer, even if she didn't want to admit it. Money. Freedom. A way out of the trap that was slowly closing around her. At 6 a.m., she dragged herself to Maria's cafe and worked her morning shift in a fog of exhaustion. Maria kept shooting her concerned looks, but didn't ask questions. The regulars came and went, coffee brewed, pastries sold. Life continued like Selina's world wasn't quietly imploding. At 1:30, she changed out of her work clothes in the cafe bathroom and took the train north. The Gold Coast was a different planet. Old money row houses, boutiques selling things Selina couldn't afford to look at, people walking dogs that probably had better health care than she did. Arabica sat on a corner with floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that looked like modern art. Selina spotted Viviana immediately, a woman in her late 50s wearing a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Selina's car, sitting at a corner table with a cup of espresso and the kind of posture that came from decades of finishing school. She looked exactly like someone who'd married into the Mafia and convinced herself she hadn't. Viviana stood when Selina approached, extended a hand. Her grip was firm, controlled, and cold as marble. Miss Vale, thank you for coming. I haven't decided if this was a good idea yet. Honesty. I appreciate that. Viviana gestured to the empty chair. Please. Sit. Selina sat because standing felt too much like running. A server appeared instantly with coffee Selina hadn't ordered. Expensive coffee. The kind that came with foam art and pretension. She wrapped her hands around the cup and waited for Viviana to make her move. "You're wondering why I wanted to meet," Viviana said. Not a question. The thought crossed my mind. My son has been distracted lately. Damiano is a complicated man, Miss Vale. Brilliant, ruthless, and unfortunately prone to obsessive tendencies when something captures his interest. And you think I've captured his interest? I know you have. The question is what you intend to do about it. Selina took a sip of coffee to buy herself time. It tasted like burnt gold and regret. I'm not sure what you're asking. I'm asking if you understand what it means to be involved with someone like my son. Viviana's voice never rose above polite conversation, but steel ran underneath every word. Damiano exists in a world that destroys ordinary people. His enemies don't play by rules. His business associates would kill you just to send him a message. And the law enforcement agencies watching our family would use you as leverage the moment they thought it might work. So you're warning me off. I'm giving you context. Viviana set down her cup with the precision of a chess player moving a piece. My husband built an empire on violence and fear. He taught our sons that loyalty was purchased and trust was weakness. Then he disappeared, leaving Damiano to inherit a kingdom at war with itself. I know about the wars. Do you? Do you know how many attempts have been made on Damiano's life in the past 3 years? 7. 7 times someone tried to kill my son, and 7 times he survived because he trusts no one, cares for nothing, and maintains absolute control over every aspect of his life. Viviana leaned forward slightly. Until you. The weight of those 2 words settled over the table like fog. I'm nobody, Selina said. A waitress he met once. You're a weakness, and in our world, weaknesses get exploited. Viviana pulled an envelope from her purse and placed it on the table between them. Which is why I'm prepared to offer you $50,000 to walk away. The number hit Selina like a physical blow. 50,000. Enough to clear her mother's medical debt with room to spare. Enough to go back to medical school. Enough to start over somewhere Damiano Castelli's shadow didn't reach. Her hand shook as she picked up the envelope, felt the weight of it. The promise of freedom contained in paper and ink. This is a bribe, she said. This is a gift. Tax-free, completely legal, transferred from my personal account to yours the moment you agree to end contact with my son. And if I refuse? Viviana's expression didn't change. Then you'll learn very quickly why loving someone like Damiano is a death sentence. His enemies will come for you. The FBI will pressure you. And eventually, you'll either run or end up collateral damage in a war you never wanted to fight. Selina set the envelope down with care, fighting the urge to grab it and run. Does Damiano know you're doing this? No, and he won't, unless you tell him. He'll find out. Perhaps. But by then, you'll be gone, and he'll survive the way he always has, by burying his emotions and moving forward. You don't know him as well as you think you do. I know him better than anyone alive. Viviana's voice finally showed emotion, grief, maybe, or exhaustion. I watched my husband turn my son into a weapon, taught him that caring for people made him vulnerable, and I've spent years watching that lesson destroy him piece by piece. She stood, smoothing her suit with practiced movements. Take the money, Miss Vale. Disappear. Give Damiano a chance to find someone from his own world who understands the cost of loving him. You seem like a good person. Don't let my son's obsession ruin that. Viviana left before Selina could respond, gliding out of the cafe like royalty dismissing a subject. Selina sat alone at the table, staring at an envelope containing more money than she'd seen in her entire life. Freedom, safety, everything she'd been drowning without. All she had to do was take it and run. Her phone buzzed. Damiano's number. Where are you? Selina stared at the message, at the envelope, at her reflection in the cafe windows. Then she picked up the envelope, shoved it into her bag, and walked out without answering. She made it 3 blocks before the black SUV pulled alongside her. The rear window rolled down, and Damiano looked out with an expression that could have frozen the lake. Get in the car, Selena. How did you? I have people watching my mother. Now get in the fucking car. His tone left no room for argument. Selena climbed into the SUV, and the door slammed shut behind her with the finality of a cell closing. The interior was all leather and tinted windows and the kind of silence that preceded explosions. Damiano sat across from her, perfectly still except for a muscle jumping in his jaw. What did she offer you? His voice was deadly calm. It doesn't matter. The hell it doesn't. What did she offer? Selena pulled the envelope from her bag and tossed it onto the seat between them. 50,000 to disappear, very generous. Damiano picked up the envelope, stared at it for 3 seconds, then threw it against the window hard enough to make Selena flinch. That manipulative... He cut himself off, breathing hard through his nose. I'm sorry. She had no right. She thinks she's protecting you. She thinks she owns me. He leaned forward, and Selena saw something dangerous flickering behind his eyes. Did you take it? I'm sitting in your car, aren't I? That's not an answer. Selena met his gaze dead on. No, I didn't take it, but I thought about it. I thought about it hard, Damiano, because $50,000 would change my life. Then why didn't you? Because I'm apparently an idiot who's falling for a man who operates like a chess grandmaster, treating people like pieces. Her voice cracked despite her best efforts. Because every rational thought in my head says to run, but I'm still here. Because you looked at me like I mattered, and it's been so long since anyone... Damiano kissed her. Not gentle this time. Not the careful exploration from the conservatory. This was desperate, almost violent, like he was trying to prove something to both of them. Selena kissed back just as hard, tasting coffee and fury and something that felt dangerously close to need. When they finally broke apart, Damiano's forehead rested against hers, his breathing ragged. My mother is wrong about one thing, he said quietly. You're not a weakness. You're the first person in 10 years who's made me remember I'm still human. That's not a good thing in your world. No, it's not. He pulled back, studying her face like he was memorizing it. Which is why I'm giving you an out. Right now. Last chance. Take the money. Walk away. And I promise you'll never hear from me again. And if I stay, then you're in this. All the way. No half measures, no safe distance. You become part of my life, which means you become a target for anyone who wants to hurt me. Your mother already made that clear. I'm making it clearer. People will die because of us, Selena. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But eventually, someone will try to use you against me, and I will kill them for it. Can you live with that? Selena should have said no. Should have grabbed the money and run like hell. Instead, she said, I'm still here, aren't I? Damiano's expression shifted into something that might have been relief or terror, or both. Okay, he said. Okay, then we do this my way. Starting now, you don't go anywhere without security. You move out of that apartment in Pilsen. Absolutely not. It's not safe. I'm not giving up my home because your mother decided to play puppet master. Selena's voice hardened. You want me in this? Fine. But I'm not becoming one of those women who disappears into your world. I keep my jobs, my apartment, my life, or this ends right now. They stared at each other across 3 feet of expensive leather upholstery. Damiano spoke first. You're going to get yourself killed. Probably, but at least I'll die on my own terms. That's not funny. I'm not joking. Another silence, this one crackling with tension. Then Damiano laughed. A short, sharp sound that held zero humor. You're insane, says the mob boss who sent me a phone and broke into my apartment. Fair point. He pulled out his own phone and made a call. Marco? Yeah. I need a security detail. Discreet. Rotating shifts. Someone who can blend in Pilsen without looking like a cop or a gangster. A pause. No, this isn't negotiable. Just make it happen. He hung up and looked at Selena. You keep your apartment, but you get security. Non-negotiable. I can live with that. And you tell me if my mother contacts you again. Deal. And you stop taking the bus at midnight through neighborhoods where people get mugged. Now you're pushing it. Selena, I'll think about it. She grabbed the envelope from where it had fallen on the floor and tucked it back into her bag. I should return this to your mother. Burn it. She can afford the loss. That's $50,000. That's an insult disguised as charity. Damiano's voice went cold again. My mother thinks everyone has a price. Proving her wrong is worth more than the money. The SUV pulled up outside Selena's building. She reached for the door handle, then stopped. Your mother said loving you was a death sentence. She's probably right. That doesn't scare you. Terrifies me. Damiano looked at her with those eyes that were learning to show emotion. But I'm more afraid of letting you walk away. Selena wanted to say something profound, something that would make sense of the insanity they were diving into. Instead, she just said, I'll call you tomorrow. You better. She climbed out of the SUV and didn't look back as it pulled away, climbed the 3 flights to her apartment, locked herself inside, and sat on her bed staring at an envelope containing 50,000 reasons to run. At 3 a.m., she burned it in her kitchen sink, watched the money curl and blacken and turn to ash, felt something inside her break and reform into something new, something that knew the difference between the smart choice and the right one. Out. The next 2 weeks fell into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Selena worked her shifts. Damiano appeared whenever his schedule allowed. They had dinner at restaurants where his security lurked at nearby tables, went to a museum where he explained Renaissance art with the passion of someone who'd studied it seriously, walked along the lakefront at midnight while bodyguards trailed 30 feet behind. He never pushed for more than she was willing to give, never demanded she change her life to accommodate his. Just showed up, made her laugh, and left before the sun rose. It was almost perfect, which meant it couldn't last. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday night at Belladonna. Selena was clearing table 12 when she noticed the man at the bar. Mid-30s, expensive suit, watching her with the kind of focused attention that made her skin crawl. Not a regular customer, not someone who belonged in a place like this. Just a stranger whose eyes followed her movements like a predator tracking prey. She mentioned it to Marco during her break. Tall guy? Dark hair? Looks like he crawled out of Wall Street? That's him. Marco's expression went carefully neutral. That's Lucien Castelli, Damiano's younger brother. Selena's stomach dropped. Why is he here? Probably for the same reason Viviana called you. The family's getting nervous. About what? You. Marco lowered his voice. Word is Damiano's been distracted, missing meetings, delegating business he used to handle personally, and in their world, distraction gets people killed. Selena glanced toward the bar where Lucien sat nursing a scotch and watching her like she was a problem that needed solving. Should I be worried? Probably. But then again, you should have been worried the moment Damiano noticed you existed. Marco squeezed her shoulder. Just be careful. The Castellis eat their own when they think it's necessary. Selena finished her shift under Lucien's unwavering surveillance. He didn't approach her, didn't speak, just watched. And somehow that was worse than anything Viviana had said. At midnight, when Selena finally escaped through the back entrance, a different car was waiting. Not Damiano's usual Mercedes, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows and a driver she didn't recognize. The rear door opened. Lucien Castelli smiled at her from the leather interior. Miss Vale, I was hoping we could talk. I'm not getting in that car. I'm not asking you to, just giving you a message to pass along to my brother. His smile never reached his eyes. Tell Damiano that the Barone family is moving on the shipping contracts next week. Tell him we need him focused, not playing house with a waitress. And tell him that if he can't keep his priorities straight, the family will do it for him. I'm not your messenger. No, you're his weakness, which makes you our problem. Lucien leaned back, examining his perfectly manicured nails. My brother thinks he can have both worlds, the empire and the girl, power and love. But men like us don't get happy endings, Miss Vale. We get blood and betrayal and lonely nights in empty mansions. Is that supposed to scare me? It's supposed to make you think. Because when the Barones come for Damiano, and they will, you'll be the first casualty. Not because you matter in the grand scheme of things, but because hurting you will hurt him. And in our world, that's all that matters. The car door closed. The sedan pulled away, leaving Selena standing in the alley with her heart hammering and Lucien's words echoing in her head. She called Damiano from a cab. We need to talk, now. 20 minutes later, she was sitting in his penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, while Damiano paced like a caged animal and his security swept the apartment for bugs. Lucien shouldn't have approached you. Damiano's voice was tight with barely controlled rage. He knows better. He said the Barones are making a move. They've been making moves for months. Nothing's changed. He also said I'm a distraction you can't afford. Damiano stopped pacing, turned to face her. Is that what you think? I think your entire family is trying to get rid of me. Your mother offered me money. Your brother delivered threats. How long before someone just cuts out the middleman and makes me disappear? That won't happen. You can't promise that. Yes, I can. He crossed to where she stood by the windows and took her face in his hands. I've been in this life since I was 15 years old. I've survived assassination attempts, federal investigations, and a civil war inside my own organization. I know how to protect what's mine. I'm not yours. Aren't you? The question hung between them like a confession. Selena pulled away, suddenly exhausted. This is insane. We've known each other 3 weeks. You can't reorganize your entire life around someone you barely know. I'm not reorganizing anything. I'm just refusing to let fear dictate my choices. That's not how your brother sees it. My brother is a paranoid sociopath who thinks emotional attachment is weakness. Damiano's expression hardened. And if he contacts you again, you tell me immediately. Understood? What are you going to do? Remind him that I'm still in charge. The way he said it made Selena's blood run cold. She left shortly after, driven home in Damiano's Mercedes by a driver who looked like he could kill someone with his pinky finger. Her new security detail, a compact woman named Rosa who dressed like a grad student and moved like a panther, followed in a separate car. Selena's apartment felt like a cage when she locked herself inside. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting, accelerating, spinning toward a collision she couldn't see but could feel approaching like thunder before a storm. At 4 a.m., unable to sleep, she opened her laptop and did what she probably should have done weeks ago. She Googled Damiano Castelli. The results were exactly what she expected and somehow worse. News articles about federal investigations that went nowhere. Business acquisitions that happened too fast to be legitimate. Carefully worded obituaries for men who'd died in suspicious circumstances. And buried in the archives, a single photograph from 3 years ago. Damiano standing beside his father at some charity gala. Giovanni Castelli looked exactly like an older version of his son. Same cold eyes, same controlled expression, same sense of barely contained violence. The caption read, Giovanni and Damiano Castelli at the Children's Hospital Foundation fundraiser, 6 months before Giovanni's disappearance. Selena stared at the photograph for a long time. Then she searched for articles about Giovanni's disappearance. Federal investigators suspected foul play, but had no evidence. The family claimed he'd retired to Italy for health reasons. Rumors suggested everything from witness protection to a shallow grave in the Indiana countryside. And one anonymous source quoted in a Tribune article said something that made Selena's hands go numb. Giovanni Castelli was old school. He believed in blood loyalty above everything. If someone betrayed him, even family, they didn't survive long enough to regret it. His disappearance wasn't retirement, it was revolution. And smart money says his own son pulled the trigger. Selena slammed the laptop shut. Her hands were shaking. Her breathing came too fast. Because she just read what everyone suspected, but nobody could prove. Damiano had killed his own father. And she was falling in love with him anyway. Pachig. She didn't call him for 3 days. Worked her shifts in a fog of exhaustion and confusion. Avoided his texts. Ignored the flowers that kept appearing at both her jobs. Rosa, her security detail, said nothing, but her expression spoke volumes. On the 4th day, Damiano showed up at Maria's cafe during the morning rush. He looked like he hadn't slept. Wearing yesterday's clothes, stubble darkening his jaw, eyes that had lost their careful control and showed something raw underneath. Maria took one look at him and disappeared into the kitchen. The regulars suddenly remembered they had places to be. Within 2 minutes, Selena and Damiano were alone in a cafe that had been packed 30 seconds earlier. You've been avoiding me, he said. Selena wiped down the counter with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. I've been busy. Bullshit. What happened? I Googled you. Ah. Damiano sat on one of the bar stools like his legs had stopped working. And what did you find? Enough. She met his eyes. Did you kill your father? The silence that followed felt like falling. Damiano didn't flinch, didn't deny it, just looked at her with an expression that might have been relief that someone had finally asked. "I don't know," he said quietly. "How can you not know?" "Because I wasn't the one who pulled the trigger, but I gave the order that set everything in motion." He dragged a hand through his hair. "My father was planning to expand the organization into human trafficking, moving girls from Eastern Europe through our shipping routes. I told him it was a line we couldn't cross. He told me I was weak. We argued. Things escalated." Damiano's voice went flat, emotionless, the way people talked when the alternative was breaking. 2 days later, he vanished. His closest associates claimed he'd gone to Italy, but his passport never left the country. His accounts were never touched, and the trafficking operation shut down permanently. So someone killed him. Someone made him disappear. Whether that means dead or in hiding where he can never come back, I don't know. And I stopped trying to find out because either way, he's gone, and the organization is better for it. Selena gripped the edge of the counter. "Who ordered it?" "I did. I told my security chief that my father was becoming a liability, that his plans would bring federal attention we couldn't afford, that something needed to be done." Damiano finally looked away. "I didn't specify what. I just made it clear that I wanted the problem solved. That's the same as ordering his death." "Yes, it is. And you can live with that?" "I have to." He stood, and Selena saw how much effort it took. "My father built an empire on suffering. He turned his sons into weapons, taught us that family meant nothing compared to power. So when he crossed a line even I couldn't stomach, I made a choice." He stepped closer, and Selena forced herself not to back away. "I'm not a good man, Selena. I've done terrible things, ordered worse, built my life on a foundation that would horrify you if you knew the details. But I'm trying to be better than my father, trying to run an organization that doesn't profit from destroying lives. That doesn't make you a hero. I never claimed to be a hero. I'm just a man who's trying not to become a monster." His voice cracked slightly. "And you make me think maybe that's still possible." Selena wanted to scream at him, wanted to run, wanted to do anything except what she actually did, which was step forward and wrap her arms around him. Damiano went rigid for half a second. Then he collapsed against her like someone had cut his strings. They stood in the empty cafe while morning light streamed through the windows, and Chicago woke up outside, two people from different worlds holding on to each other like they were drowning. "I can't promise you safety," Damiano whispered against her hair. "I can't promise you a normal life. All I can promise is that I'll do everything in my power to protect you, even if that means letting you go." "Don't," Selena said. "Don't let me go. Not yet." "You should run." "I know. This is only going to get worse." "I know that too." He pulled back just enough to look at her. "Then why are you still here?" "Because I'm an idiot who's in love with a man who might have killed his own father." The words came out before she could stop them. "Because you looked at me like I mattered. Because under all the violence and control, you're just as broken as I am." Damiano kissed her, soft this time, gentle, like she was something precious he was terrified of breaking. When they separated, his eyes were wet. "I love you," he said. "I've loved you since you told me no in that restaurant, and it's the most terrifying thing I've ever felt." "Good," Selena managed, "because I'm fucking terrified too." They would have stayed like that, wrapped in each other while the world burned down around them, except Rosa burst through the door with her weapon drawn and murder in her eyes. "We need to go! Now!" Damiano's entire demeanor shifted in a heartbeat. The vulnerable man disappeared. The predator returned. "What happened?" "Barone's people just hit one of our warehouses. 3 of our guys are dead, and they left a message." Rosa's expression was grim. "It was addressed to you. Said next time they're coming for what you actually care about." Damiano looked at Selena, and she saw him making the calculation in real time, saw him weighing her safety against his pride, saw the exact moment he chose her. "Get her somewhere secure," he told Rosa. "Somewhere nobody knows about. Keep her there until this is finished." "No." Selena grabbed his arm. "I'm not hiding while you go to war. This isn't negotiable." "The hell it isn't. You don't get to make decisions about my safety without me. Selena, they're using me against you anyway. Hiding doesn't change that. It just means I'm alone when they eventually find me." Damiano's jaw worked like he was physically restraining himself from picking her up and carrying her to safety. Rosa spoke before he could. She's not wrong. Baroni's people are smart. They've probably already identified her routine. Hiding her just delays the inevitable. Then what do you suggest? We go public. Make her visible. Surround her with enough security that taking a shot becomes suicide. Rosa holstered her weapon. If they know touching her means all-out war, they might back off. Or they might decide the war is worth it, Damiano countered. Either way, she's safer with us than alone. They were talking about Selena like she wasn't there, like she was a chess piece instead of a person. Stop, she said. Both of them looked at her. Just stop. I'm not some fragile thing you need to hide. I'm a grown woman who's choosing to be part of this. So either treat me like an equal or I walk right now. Damiano stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Lucien, it's me. Yeah, I know about the warehouse. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to set up a meeting with the Barones. Neutral ground, public venue, tomorrow night. A pause. Because I'm done letting them dictate the terms. We end this before it escalates into something none of us can control. He listened for a moment, his expression darkening. I don't care what you think is smart. You wanted me focused? Fine. I'm focused. Now set up the goddamn meeting. He hung up, looked at Selena with eyes that had gone cold and calculating. Tomorrow night, there's a charity gala at the Drake Hotel. Black tie. Chicago's political elite pretending they care about inner-city schools. The Barones will be there because Raffaele sits on the foundation board. So will we. You're using me as bait, Selena said. I'm making a statement that you're under my protection, that anyone who touches you answers to me, and that I'm not hiding what you've become to me. Which is what, exactly? Damiano took her hand, pressed it against his chest where she could feel his heart hammering. Everything. The word settled over them like a declaration of war. Rosa cleared her throat. I'll arrange security. But boss, if we're doing this, we're doing it right. Full detail, exit strategies. And she doesn't leave your sight for a second. Agreed. And if shooting starts, it won't. Baroni's not stupid enough to start a war in front of half the city's politicians. But if it does? Damiano's expression went flat. Then we finish what he started. The next 30 hours blurred together. Selena quit both her jobs with apologies she didn't have time to properly deliver. Packed a bag because Rosa insisted she couldn't stay in her apartment. Moved into a guest room in Damiano's penthouse that was bigger than her entire previous living space. Security appeared everywhere. Cars followed her. Guards stationed themselves in the hallway. Rosa became her shadow. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like preparing for battle. The morning of the gala, a stylist arrived with dresses Selena couldn't afford to touch. A makeup artist did her face while explaining the difference between black tie elegant and making a statement. They chose statement. The dress was deep red, silk that clung to her body like sin. Cut low enough to suggest without revealing, expensive enough to make it clear whose money had paid for it. Damiano's money. Damiano's protection. Damiano's claim. When Selena finally saw herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. Not a waitress anymore. Not a student drowning in debt. Someone new. Someone dangerous. Someone who'd chosen to stand beside a king and accepted the consequences. Damiano appeared in the doorway wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than her previous year's rent. He stopped, just stared. You're staring, Selena said. I'm memorizing. He crossed to her, moving with that predatory grace that never quite left him. Because you look like someone painted you out of my fantasies, and I need to remember this moment before everything goes to hell. Optimistic. Realistic. He pulled a jewelry box from his pocket. I have something for you. Inside was a necklace that made Selena's breath catch. Diamonds and sapphires arranged in a pattern that looked like falling stars. I can't accept this. You have to. You're making a statement tonight. This completes it. Damiano, please. The word came out rough. Let me do this. Let me give you something beautiful before I drag you into something ugly. Selena turned so he could fasten the necklace. His fingers brushed her neck, and she shivered. Are you scared? She asked. Terrified. Good. Because if you weren't, I'd think you didn't understand what we're walking into. I understand perfectly. His hand settled on her shoulders, and they looked at each other in the mirror. We're walking into a room full of predators and announcing that you're mine, which makes you a target for everyone who wants to hurt me. Then why do it? Because hiding you feels like being ashamed, and I refuse to be ashamed of the only good thing in my life. Selena turned in his arms, kissed him slow and deep while the stylist and makeup artist discreetly disappeared. When they broke apart, Damiano rested his forehead against hers. Last chance to run, he whispered. Not a chance in hell. Then let's go make some enemies. The drive to the Drake Hotel took 20 minutes through downtown Chicago. Their convoy consisted of 3 vehicles, Damiano's Mercedes in the center, SUVs full of security flanking them on both sides. Selena watched the city slide past and tried to calm her racing heart. Photographers lined the hotel entrance. Rich people in expensive clothes climbed the steps. And somewhere in that crowd, Rafael Barone was waiting with his own army and his own plans. The Mercedes pulled to the curb. Damiano squeezed her hand. Stay close. Don't leave my sight. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you tell me immediately. I'm not fragile. I know, but you're also not bulletproof. He kissed her knuckles. Ready? No. But let's do it anyway. The door opened. Flashbulbs exploded. And Selena stepped out into a world that would never let her go. Damiano appeared at her side instantly, offering his arm with the kind of possessive certainty that left no room for doubt about who she belonged to. They climbed the steps while cameras captured every angle, and somewhere in the crowd, she felt eyes tracking her movement with lethal focus. The ballroom was exactly what Selena expected. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, a string quartet playing something expensive and boring. Chicago's elite mingled in clusters, drinking champagne that cost more than most people's mortgage payments while pretending to care about education reform. Damiano navigated through them like a shark through shallow water. People recognized him, stepped aside, watched with the careful expressions of prey animals confirming the location of a predator. And then they saw Selena on his arm, and their expressions changed. Confusion, calculation, recognition that something fundamental had shifted in the power structure they thought they understood. Damiano's mother appeared first. Viviana wore ice blue silk and an expression that could have frozen the lake. She looked at Selena the way scientists looked at failed experiments. Damiano, Miss Vale, how unexpected? Mother. Damiano's voice carried zero warmth. We need to talk, later, privately. I imagine we do. Viviana's gaze swept over Selena's dress, the necklace, the visible claim Damiano had staked. You're making quite the statement, my son. That's the idea. It's also incredibly reckless. Your opinion is noted and dismissed. Damiano steered Selena past his mother before she could respond. They made it 6 more feet before Lucien materialized from the crowd. He looked at Selena with open contempt. You actually brought her. Not a question, an accusation. Do you have any idea what you've just done? Warned our enemies that I'm not weak. Made it clear that certain lines can't be crossed. Taken a stand. Damiano's voice dropped to something dangerous. And reminded my family that I don't require their approval for my decisions. This isn't about approval. It's about survival. Lucien stepped closer, and Rosa's hand moved inside her jacket. The Baroness are looking for an excuse to escalate. You just gift-wrapped them one. Then maybe it's time we stopped giving a damn what the Baroness want. That's emotion talking, not strategy. That's me drawing a line. Damiano pulled Selena tighter against his side. And if you or anyone else in this family has a problem with it, we can discuss it after tonight. Lucien's expression went cold. You're going to get us all killed. Then at least I'll die for something that matters. The brothers stared at each other across 3 feet of expensive carpet. Then Lucien walked away without another word. Selena finally remembered to breathe. That went well, she muttered. That was a warning. He'll make his move soon. Move toward what? Removing me, taking control. Probably making a deal with the Baroness that doesn't include you breathing. Damiano said it casually, like discussing the weather. But he has to wait until he has enough support from the family. And how long will that take? Depends on how badly tonight goes. Before Selena could respond, the crowd shifted. A A pathway opened like someone had choreographed it, and at the far end of the ballroom, standing beside a sculpture made of ice and hubris, was Raphael Barone. He looked exactly like the kind of man who ordered murders over breakfast. 60, maybe. Silver hair, expensive suit, eyes that had stopped seeing people as anything other than problems or opportunities decades ago. He was staring directly at them, smiling. Is that? Yes. Damiano's entire body tensed. Whatever happens next, stay behind me. Understand? Damiano, promise me. Selena wanted to argue, to insist she could handle herself, to do anything except what she actually did. I promise. Raffaele Baroni started walking toward them. His security moved with him, 4 guys built like refrigerators, hands inside jackets where weapons definitely waited. Damiano's own security shifted into formation. The string quartet kept playing. Rich people kept drinking. And in the center of a ballroom full of witnesses, 2 men who ran Chicago's underworld moved toward each other like ships preparing to collide. They met in the exact center of the room. Damiano! Raffaele's voice carried the accent of someone who'd left Sicily 50 years ago, but never stopped being Sicilian. You look well. Distracted, perhaps. But well. Raffaele? I'd say it's good to see you, but we both know I'd be lying. The older man laughed. Always direct. Your father would be proud. My father's dead. Is he? How unfortunate. I heard rumors he'd retired. They were discussing murder at a charity gala like discussing golf scores. Raffaele's attention shifted to Selena. The weight of his stare made her skin crawl. And who is this beautiful creature? None of your concern. Ah, but she is. When my associates tell me that Damiano Castelli is spending time with a waitress from Belladonna, I become curious. When that same waitress appears on your arm at a public event wearing a fortune in diamonds, I become interested. And when 3 of my men disappear after asking too many questions about her, I become concerned. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Damiano's voice went flat. Your men were where they shouldn't have been, asking questions they shouldn't have asked, about someone they had no business investigating. So you killed them. I protected what's mine. Is she worth 3 lives, Damiano? Is this girl worth starting a war neither of us can afford? She's worth burning this entire city to ashes. The words hung in the air like a declaration. Raphael studied Damiano for a long moment. Then he laughed, a sound like grinding glass. Your father warned me you had a weakness for sentiment. I see he was right. He looked at Selena again, and this time his expression held calculation. Tell me, young lady, do you understand what you've become? You're not his girlfriend, you're his Achilles' heel. The weak point every man has, but most are smart enough to hide. Then I guess he's not like most men, Selena heard herself say. Raphael raised an eyebrow. Indeed, most men value survival over sentiment. Most men don't have anything worth dying for. Brave words. Let's see if you still believe them when the bullets start flying. He turned to Damiano. We should talk, somewhere private, without the girl. No. I'm offering you a chance to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. You stay out of my territory, I stay out of yours, and neither of us touches what belongs to the other. Including the shipping contracts? Especially the shipping contracts. Raphael's expression hardened. Those contracts are worth $50 million annually. You expect me to walk away from that kind of money? I expect you to choose between $50 million and survival. Damiano's voice dropped to something lethal. Because if you push this, it won't be a war. It'll be an extermination. And I promise you, old man, you won't like how it ends. The entire ballroom had gone silent. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Everyone was watching 2 kings face off in front of witnesses who'd never testified to what they'd seen. Raffaele spoke quietly. You're making a mistake, Damiano. Mixing business with pleasure. Letting a woman weaken your judgment. Your father would be ashamed. My father's in the ground, or wherever else he ended up. Damiano stepped closer, and Selena felt Rosa's hand on her arm, ready to pull her back. But I'm still here, still in control, still strong enough to bury anyone who threatens what's mine. Then I suppose we understand each other. I suppose we do. Raphael smiled. Enjoy the evening, Damiano, while you still can. He walked away, and his security fell into formation around him. The quartet started playing again. Conversations resumed, and Selena realized she'd been holding her breath for the entire exchange. "What just happened?" she whispered. "I drew a line. He decided whether to respect it or cross it." Damiano's hand found hers, gripping tight enough to hurt. "Based on that smile, I'd say he's planning to cross it." "When?" "Soon. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow, but soon." "Then why are we still here?" "Because running makes us look weak, and weakness is blood in the water." He pulled her toward the exit anyway. "But you're right. We've made our statement. Time to go." They made it to the lobby before Lucian intercepted them. He looked furious. "Do you have any idea what you just did in there?" "Stood my ground." "You threatened Rafael Barone in front of half of Chicago's power structure. You might as well have declared open war." "Then I guess we're at war." Damiano kept moving, pulling Selena with him. "Excuse us, we're leaving." "Wait." But they were already through the doors and down the steps where their convoy waited. Rosa appeared at their side, weapon in hand, scanning the street for threats. They climbed into the Mercedes and it pulled away from the hotel with tires squealing. Selena watched through the rear window as Lucian stood on the steps, looking like someone who'd just watched his world catch fire. "Your brother's terrified," she said. "He should be. I just committed us to a conflict that could destroy the family." "Was it worth it?" Damiano looked at her with eyes that had shed every shred of control. "Ask me when we survive the night." They made it 6 blocks before Rosa's phone rang. She answered, listened, went pale. "Boss, we have a problem." "How bad?" "Barone's people just hit the penthouse. They knew we wouldn't be there, but they left a message." "What kind of message?" Rosa's voice went flat. "The kind written in gasoline and matches. Your home is burning." Damiano closed his eyes, and Selena watched the last piece of his control shatter like glass. The penthouse burned like a funeral pyre against the Chicago skyline. Selena watched through the Mercedes window as flames clawed their way up the building's facade, orange and gold against black glass, consuming everything Damiano owned in great gulping mouthfuls of heat and destruction. Fire trucks screamed through intersections, police cordoned off streets, and somewhere in that inferno, the last remnants of normalcy turned to ash. Damiano sat perfectly still beside her. Too still, like a statue carved from ice and rage. "Boss?" Rosa's voice cut through the silence. "We need to get you both somewhere safe. If they hit the penthouse, they know your locations, your patterns, everything." "Where?" Not a question, a demand. "The estate. Your mother's already securing it. Full lockdown protocol." "No." Damiano's voice was flat, dead. "Not there. It's the most defensible position we have. It's also exactly where Lucian expects us to go." He finally moved, pulling out his phone with hands that shook just slightly. "Take us to the industrial park in Cicero, the warehouse on 55th. Rosa's eyes widened. "That's not secure. It's not on any official records, which means it's the one place Barone's people won't think to look." Damiano's thumb hovered over his contact list. "How many of our people can we trust right now?" "Hard to say. If there's a leak..." "There's definitely a leak." Barone knew exactly when the penthouse would be empty, knew which security protocols to bypass. Someone fed him that information. His jaw clenched. "I want a list of everyone who had access to tonight's schedule. Everyone. Including family." "Including Lucien?" "Especially Lucien." The Mercedes changed direction, heading west toward the industrial wasteland where Chicago's legitimate businesses gave way to the kind of operations that existed only on paper and in whispered conversations. Selena finally found her voice. "Your home is burning." "I noticed. And you're acting like it doesn't matter." "It doesn't." Damiano looked at her, and his eyes held something that might have been grief if it hadn't been wrapped in so much fury. "Buildings can be replaced, security systems can be upgraded, but the message Barone sent, that can't be ignored." "What message?" "That he knows where I sleep, where I keep my things, where I let my guard down." His hand found hers, gripping tight enough to hurt. "And by extension, he knows where you are. Which means staying in Chicago just made you a target with a bullseye painted on your back." Selena's stomach dropped. "You're sending me away." I'm keeping you alive. No. She pulled her hand free. We talked about this. I'm not running while you fight. That was before Raphael declared war. Before someone in my organization sold me out. Before everything went to hell. Damiano's control fractured just enough to show the desperation underneath. Please, Selena, for once in your stubborn life, just do what I'm asking. Let me get you somewhere safe. Where? If they can burn down your penthouse, they can find me anywhere. Not if you disappear completely. New identity, new city. Enough money to start over somewhere they'll never think to look. The words hit like a punch to the gut. You're serious. Dead serious. And what happens to us? Damiano looked away. There is no us. Not anymore. Not if I want you breathing this time next week. Selena wanted to scream, wanted to hit him, wanted to do anything except sit in this expensive car wearing his diamonds while he calmly discussed erasing her existence. You don't get to make that decision alone. I'm not asking permission. Then you're an asshole. I've never claimed otherwise. He finally met her eyes again. But I'm an asshole who loves you enough to let you go, even if it kills me. Rosa cleared her throat from the front seat. We're here. The warehouse loomed against the night sky like something out of a nightmare. Corrugated metal walls, broken windows. The kind of building that had seen things nobody talked about and would see worse before the night ended. Security was already waiting. 6 guys Selena recognized from Damiano's usual detail, plus 3 she didn't. They formed a perimeter as the Mercedes pulled through rusted gates into a parking lot full of shadows and broken concrete. Damiano climbed out first, scanning the area with practiced efficiency before offering Selena his hand. She took it because pride seemed stupid when surrounded by armed men in an abandoned warehouse. Inside was worse, bare bulbs hanging from chains, concrete floors stained with substances Selena didn't want to identify. The smell of rust and old blood and fear soaked into the walls. This was where Damiano's empire showed its real face, not crystal chandeliers and Italian marble. This, violence and necessity and the kind of choices that left permanent stains. Set up a perimeter, Damiano ordered. Nobody gets within 2 blocks without me knowing about it. And someone get me a secure line to Marco. I need to know who had access to tonight's schedule. The security team scattered like soldiers following orders. Rosa remained, weapon drawn, positioned between Damiano and the door. And Selena stood in the center of a warehouse that smelled like death, wearing a dress that cost more than most people's cars, trying to process how spectacularly her life had imploded. I need you to listen very carefully. Damiano pulled her toward the back of the warehouse where an office had been constructed from plywood and determination. In about 6 hours, someone's going to arrive with new documents. Passport, driver's license, birth certificate, all under a different name. There'll be cash, enough to disappear for a year, maybe 2. I'm not. You are. His voice cracked like a whip. Because Raphael Baroni doesn't make empty threats. He burned my home to send a message. The next message will be written in your blood, and I won't let that happen. Selena grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. Then fight back. Don't send me away. Use me, make me bait. Set a trap. Do whatever you do in this world, but don't ask me to run. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Your ego can't handle the idea of someone using me against you. So instead of trusting me to be strong enough to survive this, you're making the decision for both of us. Damiano's expression went cold. This isn't about ego. Then what is it about? Survival. The word exploded out of him. It's about keeping you alive long enough to have a future, even if that future doesn't include me. That's not your choice to make. Yes, it is, because I'm the one who dragged you into this. I'm the one who couldn't walk away. I'm the one who's going to get you killed if you stay. They were shouting now, faces inches apart, everything they'd been holding back finally erupting like a dam breaking. Rosa appeared in the doorway. Boss, we have a problem. Not now. It's Lucien. He's here, says he needs to talk immediately. Damiano went perfectly still. Then he pulled his weapon from the holster under his jacket and checked the magazine with movements born from years of practice. Stay here, he told Selena. Don't move. Don't make a sound. And if you hear gunfire, you run. Understand? Damiano, promise me. The desperation in his voice cut through her anger. I promise. He kissed her once, hard and desperate and tasting like goodbye, then disappeared through the door with Rosa at his side. Selena stood alone in the plywood office, heart hammering, listening to footsteps echo through the warehouse. Then voices. Damiano's, tight with barely controlled rage, and Lucien's carrying that aristocratic polish that made everything sound reasonable, even when discussing murder. "You shouldn't have come here," Damiano's voice. "I had to. Before you do something catastrophically stupid." Lucien. "Like what? Defend what's mine? Like start a war we can't win." A pause. "The family's terrified, Damiano. You threatened Raffaele Barone in front of witnesses, brought that girl into our world, and now your penthouse is burning and half our associates are wondering if you've lost your mind." "My mind is fine. My priorities have just shifted. To her. Yes, to her." Lucian's laugh was bitter. "Father was right about you. All that strength, all that intelligence, and you're undone by a waitress with a pretty face." The sound of movement. Footsteps closing distance. "Be very careful what you say next, brother." "Or what? You'll kill me like you killed him?" The silence that followed felt like falling. Selena pressed her ear against the plywood wall, straining to hear. "I didn't kill our father," Damiano said quietly. "No. You just gave the order, made sure his closest allies knew he'd become a liability, then acted surprised when he vanished." Lucien's voice dripped poison. "You want to know the truth, Damiano? I admired you for it. Finally showing the strength Father always said you lacked, choosing the organization over sentiment. This conversation is over, but then you met her, and suddenly all that strength evaporated. You started missing meetings, delegating responsibility, acting like a lovesick teenager instead of the head of a criminal empire. The sound of footsteps, pacing, maybe. So I made a choice. The same choice you made with Father." Selena's blood turned to ice. "What did you do, Lucien?" "What I had to. For the family, for the organization, for the empire you were too distracted to protect." "Tell me what you did." "I made a deal with Raffaele Barone." The words dropped like stones into deep water. Damiano's voice, when he spoke, was barely human. "Explain. Now." "It's simple. You were compromised. Weak, putting a woman ahead of business. So I approached Raffaele with a proposition. He gets the shipping contracts, I get your position, and the family survives without tearing itself apart in a pointless war. You sold me out. I saved us." Lucian sounded pleased with himself. "Raphael burns your penthouse as a demonstration. You retaliate, proving you're unstable. The family votes no confidence. I step in as interim leadership. Everyone wins except you and your little whore." The sound of metal on leather. Damiano drawing his weapon. "I'm going to give you 5 seconds to run. You won't shoot me. I'm your brother. You stopped being my brother the moment you betrayed the family. The family will never forgive you for choosing her over blood. Then I'll burn the family to the ground along with everyone who stood with you." Selena couldn't breathe, couldn't move, could only stand frozen while the two brothers faced off 30 feet away. "This is your last chance," Damiano said. "Walk away. Disappear. And maybe I'll let you live." "You're bluffing." The gunshot shattered the night like breaking glass. Selena's scream died in her throat. For 3 heartbeats, nothing. Then Lucien's voice, shaking now. "You shot me." "I shot the wall next to your head. The next one goes between your eyes." "The family's say—" "Fuck the family. You made a deal with our enemies, burned my home, and you're standing here acting like you did me a favor." "I was protecting—" "You were protecting yourself." Another shot, closer this time. "You saw an opportunity to take power and you took it. Don't dress it up as loyalty." Footsteps running. Lucien, fleeing toward the exit. "Stop him!" Damiano's voice cracked like thunder. More footsteps. Security converging. Then Rosa's voice, sharp and professional. "He's gone. Out the back. Want me to pursue?" "No." Damiano sounded exhausted, broken. "Let him go. He's a dead man either way." Selena stumbled out of the office on legs that barely held her weight. Damiano stood in the center of the warehouse, weapon hanging loose in his hand, staring at the spot where his brother had been. "You heard," he said without turning. "Every word." Then you understand why you need to leave, why staying here means death. I understand that your brother sold you out, that Raphael Barone is coming for both of us, and that running won't change any of it. Selena crossed to him, ignoring Rosa's warning look. But I also understand that you're not fighting this alone. Selena, no. Listen to me. For once in your controlling, overprotective, infuriating life, just listen. She grabbed his shirt, pulled him close. I chose this. I chose you, and I'm not walking away just because things got dangerous. Things aren't dangerous, they're catastrophic. Then we'll survive catastrophe together. Damiano looked at her like she was something precious and terrifying and completely insane. You're going to get yourself killed. Probably, but at least I'll die standing beside you instead of hiding while you fight alone. He kissed her, desperate and savage and tasting like gunpowder and fear. When they broke apart, his forehead pressed against hers. I love you, he whispered, and I'm going to destroy anyone who tries to take you from me. I know. Even if it means burning Chicago to ashes. I know that too. Rosa cleared her throat. Hate to interrupt, but we've got incoming. 3 vehicles, moving fast. Damiano's entire demeanor shifted. The broken man vanished. The predator returned. How many? At least 15, maybe more. They're not trying to be subtle. Barone's people? Has to be. Nobody else knows this location. Except Lucian did now. The realization hit Selena like ice water. He told them, she said. Your brother. He told them where we'd be. Damiano's expression went flat. Of course he did. One last fuck you before running. Boss, we need to move, now. Rosa was already pulling Selena toward the back exit. There's no way we hold this position against 15 guys. Where do we go? Anywhere but here. They ran. Through the warehouse, past storage containers and equipment that looked like it belonged in a horror movie, toward a back door Selena hadn't noticed before. Outside, the night air hit like a slap, cold, sharp, carrying the distant sound of engines getting closer. Yvonne waited in the alley behind the warehouse. Generic, unremarkable, the kind of vehicle that disappeared in traffic. In! Rosa shoved Selena toward the door while Damiano provided cover, weapon trained on the shadows. They piled inside. The driver, one of Damiano's security guys whose name Selena had never learned, hit the gas before the door fully closed. The van rocketed down the alley, tires screaming, while behind them the first of Barone's vehicles appeared around the corner. Gunfire erupted, bullets punched through metal, glass shattered. Rosa returned fire through the broken rear window, her weapon barking in controlled bursts. Damiano pulled Selena down, covering her body with his own, while the world exploded into chaos. The van careened through intersections, running red lights, narrowly missing civilian vehicles whose drivers would have stories to tell tomorrow about the night Chicago went to war. More gunfire. The driver grunted, slumped forward. Rosa grabbed the wheel from the back seat, steering while the driver's foot remained jammed on the accelerator. He's hit, she shouted. Damiano, I need you up here. Damiano scrambled forward, pushing the driver's body aside, taking control of the van while Rosa continued shooting. They fishtailed around a corner, smashed through a chain-link fence, emerged onto a service road running parallel to the interstate. Behind them, Barone's vehicles gave chase like wolves pursuing wounded prey. We can't outrun them. Rosa slammed a fresh magazine into her weapon. Not in this piece of shit. Then we don't outrun them. Damiano yanked the wheel hard right, sending the van crashing through construction barriers into an area marked for demolition. Half-destroyed buildings loomed on all sides. He killed the lights, navigated by memory and instinct through rubble and rebar. Behind them, the pursuing vehicles slowed, uncertain. Damiano guided the van through a gap in a collapsed wall into what might have been a parking garage before the wrecking crews arrived. He killed the engine. They sat in absolute darkness, breathing hard, listening to the sound of vehicles circling like predators who'd lost the scent. Selena's hands shook so badly she had to clench them into fists. Damiano found them anyway. Held tight. Stay quiet, he breathed against her ear. Don't move. Outside, footsteps crunched through debris. Voices called in Italian. Flashlight beams swept through broken windows. They were searching, methodically, getting closer. Rosa's weapon was pressed against her chest, finger on the trigger, waiting. The driver's body slumped in the front seat, bleeding out onto upholstery that had seen worse. And Selina realized with crystal clarity that they were trapped. No way out. No backup coming. Just 3 people and a corpse hiding in the dark while 15 killers searched for them. A flashlight beam swept across the van's hood, paused, returned. Someone shouted in Italian. Footsteps running. "Shit," Rosa whispered. "They found us." "Out!" Damiano kicked open his door, weapon already firing. Selina tumbled out the passenger side into ankle-deep water and God knew what else. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like lightning. Men screamed. Bullets ricocheted off concrete. Rosa grabbed Selina's arm and dragged her through the chaos toward a stairwell that looked like it had been abandoned mid-construction. They climbed. 5 flights, 6. Damiano behind them, stopping periodically to fire down the stairwell at pursuing shapes. They emerged onto what might have been the 7th floor. No walls, no windows. Just open air and steel framework and a 50-foot drop to concrete below. A construction crane loomed against the skyline, its arm extending over empty space. "This way!" Rosa pulled Selina toward the crane's base. Behind them, Barone's men poured through the stairwell entrance. Damiano fired his last 3 rounds, dropped the empty weapon, and ran. They reached the crane as the first pursuer cleared the doorway. Rosa shot him. He fell. 2 more appeared. Rosa's weapon clicked empty. "Climb!" Damiano shoved Selina toward the crane's ladder. "Now!" She climbed, hand over hand, 50 feet above ground, 60. The crane swayed under their combined weight. Below, Barone's men reached the base and started climbing. They reached the crane's operator cab, a small metal box barely big enough for 2 people. Damiano pulled Selina inside and slammed the door. It wouldn't hold. The metal was thin. The lock was rusted. And 15 men with guns were 30 seconds from breaking through. "There's no way out," Selina said. "I know. We're trapped." "I know that too." He pulled her close, and she felt his heart hammering against her chest. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for all of it, for dragging you into this, for not being strong enough to let you go when I should have." "Don't," Selina grabbed his face. "Don't you dare apologize for the only good thing in my life." Footsteps clanging on metal, getting closer. "I love you," Damiano said. "Whatever happens next, I need you to know that." "I know, I love you too." The crane door exploded inward. 3 men with weapons. Damiano threw himself between them and Selina. The first shot caught him in the shoulder. He went down hard. Selina screamed and dropped beside him. The men advanced, weapons trained on both of them. And that's when the world exploded. Not metaphorically, literally. The entire building shook like an earthquake had hit. The crane swayed violently. One of Barone's men lost his balance and tumbled over the edge, screaming until the impact cut him off. The other 2 scrambled for handholds as the crane's arm began to swing. Below, something massive had just collided with the building's foundation. Selina looked out the broken door and saw fire. Huge orange blooms of it consuming the lower floors. Someone had blown the building. "What the hell?" Rosa's voice from somewhere below. Then more explosions. Systematic, calculated. Bringing down the entire structure in a controlled demolition that was anything but controlled. The crane lurched, metal screamed, and Selina felt the entire structure begin to fall. Damiano grabbed her hand. Blood poured from his shoulder, but his grip was iron. "Hold on!" The crane's arm swung out over empty air as the building collapsed beneath it. For 3 perfect seconds, they were flying, suspended above Chicago while the world burned below. Then gravity remembered they existed. They fell. The crane's arm hit something solid, a neighboring building maybe, and the impact nearly tore Selina's arm from its socket. They slid down metal sheeting, crashed through a roof that might have been tar paper or might have been asbestos, hit water that was definitely sewage. Selina went under, came up choking, found Damiano beside her, barely conscious, blood turning the water pink. Rosa surfaced 10 feet away, weapon miraculously still in hand. "Move," she gasped, "before the whole thing comes down." They swam, crawled, dragged themselves through the flooded basement of whatever building they'd crashed into, found stairs, climbed, emerged into an alley 3 blocks from where they'd started. Behind them, the building they'd just escaped finished collapsing with a roar that shook windows 6 blocks away. Sirens screamed in the distance, fire trucks, police, ambulances. Chicago's emergency services responding to what would hit the news as a tragic construction accident. Nobody would ever know it had been murder. Selena collapsed against a dumpster, lungs burning, body screaming. Damiano slumped beside her, face gray, shoulder bleeding through his ruined tuxedo. Rosa leaned against the opposite wall, checking her weapon with shaking hands. "Who?" Selena gasped. "Who blew the building?" "Not Barone's people," Rosa said. "They were inside when it went up." "Then who?" Rosa looked at Damiano. Damiano looked away, and Selena understood. "Your mother." "She has people," he said quietly. "Resources I don't control. If she thought I was compromised, thought the family was at risk, she'd make the call, eliminate the threat, even if I was inside. She tried to kill you. She tried to kill the problem. I just happened to be part of it." The words hung in the air like poison. Selena's mind spun. Lucian had betrayed them. Barone had hunted them. And Viviana had blown up a building with her own son inside rather than let him destroy the family. They had no allies, no safe harbor, nothing except each other and a security guard with 5 bullets left. "We need to move," Rosa said, "before the cops lock down the area." "Where?" Selena's voice cracked. "Where is there left to go?" Damiano struggled to his feet, using the dumpster for support. Blood dripped from his fingertips. His shoulder hung at a wrong angle, but his eyes had regained some of their terrible focus. "There's one place they won't think to look," he said. "One person who might still help us." "Who?" "Someone I swore I'd never ask for help again." He pulled out a phone that had miraculously survived the fall, dialed a number from memory. But desperate times require terrible choices. The phone rang twice. A voice answered, female, cold, unfamiliar. "This is Damiano Castelli," he said. "I need to speak with Elena Volkov. Tell her it's about the debt she owes my father." He listened, nodded, hung up. "There's a car coming, 10 minutes. We get in, we don't ask questions, and we accept whatever price she demands." "Who's Elena Volkov?" Selena asked. "The only person in Chicago more dangerous than Raphael Barone." Damiano leaned against her, and she felt him shaking. "And the woman my father once saved from a fate worse than death. She swore a blood debt to the Castelli family. Tonight, I'm calling it in." "And if she refuses?" "Then we die in this alley." His hand found hers. "But at least we'll die together." A black SUV rounded the corner exactly 10 minutes later. No lights, no markings, just death wrapped in expensive metal. The door opened. A woman stepped out who looked like she'd been carved from ice and malice. Platinum hair, eyes the color of winter sky, wearing white like she'd just come from a funeral. Elena Volkov smiled at Damiano. "You look terrible, little Castelli." "I've had a rough night." "So I heard. Half of Chicago's underworld is looking for you. The other half is placing bets on whether you'll survive until morning." Her gaze shifted to Selena. "And this must be the girl worth dying for. Can you help us or not?" "That depends. What are you willing to pay?" "Anything." "Dangerous word." "Anything." Elena's smile widened. "Get in the car. We'll discuss terms once you're not bleeding all over my streets." They climbed into the SUV. The door closed. And as they pulled away from the alley, away from the destruction, the betrayal, the ruins of everything Damiano had built, Selena looked at the man beside her. Broken, bleeding, betrayed by family, hunted by enemies, and somehow still holding her hand like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to humanity. "What happens now?" she whispered. Damiano's eyes were black in the darkness. "Now we stop running." "And do what?" His smile was terrible, savage, the smile of a man who'd lost everything and finally stopped pretending to be civilized. "Now we burn them all." Elena Volkov's safe house existed in the kind of neighborhood where Chicago's wealthy pretended the underworld didn't exist. Lincoln Park, tree-lined streets, Victorian brownstones worth 7 figures, soccer moms and golden retrievers, and the illusion of safety purchased with old money and deliberate ignorance. The SUV pulled into an underground garage beneath a building that looked like every other gentrified fortress on the block. Steel doors closed behind them with the finality of a vault ceiling. Selina helped Damiano out of the vehicle, while Elena watched with the detached interest of a scientist observing an experiment. "Third floor," she said. "My doctor is waiting." They took an elevator that required both a key card and a retinal scan, the kind of security that suggested Elena Volkov had enemies even more creative than Raphael Barone. The safe house interior was minimalist brutality. White walls, steel furniture, everything designed for function over comfort. A place built for people who expected to die violently and wanted to make their killers work for it. A man in his 60s wearing surgical scrubs waited in what passed for a living room. He took one look at Damiano's shoulder and gestured toward a steel table that had definitely seen worse than gunshot wounds. On the table, shirt off. Damiano complied with movements that made Selina's chest ache. Every gesture cost him. She could see it in the tightness around his eyes, the way his jaw clenched against pain he refused to acknowledge. The doctor cut away what remained of the tuxedo shirt and examined the wound with practiced efficiency. "Through and through, missed the bone. You're lucky." "Don't feel lucky," Damiano managed. "You're alive, that's lucky enough." The doctor prepped instruments that looked like they belonged in a horror movie. "This is gonna hurt. A lot. I can offer you whiskey or morphine." "Whiskey." "Smart man. Morphine makes you sloppy." He nodded to Elena. "Bottles in the kitchen." Elena disappeared and returned with a bottle of something Russian and expensive. She poured 3 fingers into a glass and handed it to Damiano. He drained it in one swallow, then grabbed Selina's hand. "Don't watch this part," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." "Selina." The doctor pushed a probe into the wound. Damiano's grip tightened until Selina's bones ground together. A sound escaped his throat, something between a gasp and a scream that he managed to strangle before it fully formed. Blood welled fresh around the doctor's instruments. Selina forced herself to watch, to bear witness, to not turn away while the man she loved had his shoulder excavated by a surgeon who probably wasn't technically a surgeon anymore. "Fabric," the doctor muttered. "Always fabric. People think bullets are the problem. It's the clothes they drag through the body that cause infections." He pulled something dark and wet from the wound. Damiano went gray. Selina grabbed a trash can and positioned it just as he vomited. When he finished, she wiped his face with a towel Elena silently provided. "Almost done," the doctor said. "Just need to irrigate and close." The irrigation involved a syringe the size of a turkey baster and liquid that smoked when it hit raw flesh. Damiano made sounds Selina would hear in her nightmares, but he didn't pull away, didn't tell the doctor to stop, just held Selina's hand hard enough to leave bruises and endured. The stitching took another 10 minutes. By the time the doctor finished, Damiano's face was the color of old concrete, and sweat had soaked through what remained of his shirt. "Keep it clean, change the dressing twice daily, and for the love of whatever you people believe in, don't get shot again for at least 6 weeks." He packed his instruments and left without waiting for payment. Elena poured more whiskey. This time she added 2 more glasses and filled all 3. "To survival," she said, raising hers. Nobody drank. Elena smiled and knocked hers back alone. "So," she said, settling into a chair that looked like abstract sculpture. "Let's discuss the debt." Damiano struggled upright, ignoring Selina's hands trying to keep him down. "My father saved your life in Moscow 20 years ago. You swore blood debt to the Castelli family." "I remember. Your father was very specific about the terms." Elena crossed her legs, every movement calculated. "One favor, no questions asked, no matter the cost." "I'm calling it in. Obviously. The question is what you're asking for." "Protection, resources, and help destroying Raphael Barone." Elena's eyebrows rose. "That's 3 favors. It's 1 objective. Semantics." She studied him like a chess problem. "You want me to go to war with the Barones, start a conflict that could destabilize half of Chicago's underworld, risk my own organization for your personal vendetta. It's not personal. Raphael allied with my brother to take my territory. He burned my home, tried to kill me and everyone I care about." Damiano's voice went cold. "And if you think he'll stop with the Castellis, you're delusional. Once he controls our shipping routes, your smuggling operations are next." "Perhaps, but that's a problem for next month. Your problem is now, which is why I'm asking for help. 1 favor. The debt fulfilled. Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to the windows overlooking the street where normal people lived normal lives. Your father saved me from men who would have done terrible things before they killed me. I owe the Castellis, but I owe myself more. She turned. So here are my terms. I give you protection, access to my network, intelligence on Baron's operations, and when you move against him, I provide tactical support. And in exchange, when this is over, if you survive, the Castelli shipping operations merge with mine. 60-40 split. My favor. Damiano went very still. That's extortion. That's business. Your father would understand. My father would have you killed for suggesting it. Your father is dead. You're alive, and you're in no position to negotiate. Elena's smile was sharp enough to cut. Take the deal or walk away. But if you walk alone. Selena watched Damiano's face cycle through calculations she couldn't follow. This was his world. Violence and leverage and deals made in blood. She had nothing to offer except her presence. So she squeezed his hand. Reminded him he wasn't alone. Damiano closed his eyes. Deal. But the split is 50-50, and you provide everything I need to end this war in 72 hours. 72 hours? Ambitious. Necessary. Every hour I wait gives Lucian time to consolidate power, gives Baron time to dig in. I need to move fast and hit hard before they realize I'm still alive. Elena considered this, then nodded. Agreed. 50-50. 72 hours. And may whatever you believe in have mercy on Chicago. She pulled out a phone and made a call in Russian so fast Selena couldn't track the words. When she hung up, her expression was business. My people will bring intelligence files within the hour. Baron's locations, security details, known associates, everything you need to plan your attack. I'll also need weapons, clean vehicles, and a way to contact what's left of my organization without tipping off Lucien. Already arranged, though I have to say, killing your own brother is remarkably Shakespearean. I'm not killing Lucien. No, I'm destroying him. There's a difference. Damiano stood, swaying slightly. He wanted power, fine. I'm going to make sure he lives long enough to watch everything he schemed for turn to ashes. The vindictiveness in his voice should have scared Selena. Instead, it just made her tired. You need to rest, she said. You're barely standing. I'll rest when Baron's dead. Damiano, no. He turned on her, and for a second she saw the monster everyone else feared. You don't get to tell me to slow down. Not now. Not when my family tried to murder me. Not when half of Chicago thinks I'm weak because I chose you over business. The words hit like a slap. Selena stepped back. Damiano's expression cracked immediately. Fuck, I didn't mean... He reached for her. Selena, I'm sorry. That was, the truth. She kept her voice level. You blame me for all of this. If you'd never met me, your brother wouldn't have betrayed you. Your mother wouldn't have blown up a building with you inside. Baron would have stayed in his lane. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? She grabbed her coat from where someone had draped it over a chair. You're right about one thing. I don't belong in this world. I'm just a waitress who dropped some plates and somehow ended up in the middle of a gang war. Where are you going? I don't know. Somewhere that isn't here. Elena spoke before Damiano could. You're not leaving. Selena turned. Excuse me? This building is on lockdown. Nobody enters or exits without my permission. Those are the terms of providing sanctuary. You can't keep me prisoner. I can and I am. For your own protection and his. Elena gestured at Damiano. He's half dead and running on rage and guilt. You walking out that door gets you both killed. She has a point, Damiano said quietly. Don't. Selena spun on him. Don't you dare agree with her while you're bleeding and exhausted and saying things you don't mean. I meant every word. You are the reason this happened, not because you did anything wrong, but because loving you made me vulnerable, made me human. And in my world, humanity gets you killed. Then maybe you should let me go. I can't. Why not? Because you're the only thing keeping me from becoming my father. The words exploded out of him. You think this is about blame? It's about terror. I'm terrified that if I let you walk away, I'll finish this war and there'll be nothing left of me worth saving, just another monster running an empire built on corpses. Silence filled the room like water. Selena's anger drained away, left her empty, exhausted. "I can't fix you," she said. "I'm not strong enough to keep pulling you back from the edge. I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm asking you to stay. Even when I'm an asshole, even when this world is burning down around us." His voice cracked. "Please." Elena cleared her throat. "Touching, truly. But perhaps you two could work through your relationship drama after we've addressed the immediate problem of multiple organizations trying to kill you." She was right. Selena knew she was right. But the exhaustion in her bones ran deeper than fear or survival instinct. "I need to sleep," she said. "Show me where." Elena led her down a hallway to a bedroom that looked like a high-end prison cell. Bed, dresser, window with bars disguised as decorative ironwork. "Bathroom's through there. Clothes in the closet should fit. I'll have food sent up in a few hours." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. This is business. You're an asset worth protecting because he'll fight harder with you alive." Elena paused at the door. "But for what it's worth, you're braver than most women who get involved with men like Damiano. Most run. You stayed. That counts for something." She left before Selena could respond. Selena collapsed on the bed, fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling while her mind spun in useless circles. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a waitress drowning in debt. Now she was hiding in a Russian mobster's safe house, while the man she loved planned to burn Chicago to the ground. The trajectory was insane, but walking away felt impossible. Not because she was trapped, because leaving Damiano now, after everything, felt like abandoning him to become exactly what he feared most. Sleep came eventually, dreamless and heavy. When she woke, sunlight filtered through the barred windows and someone had left a tray of food on the dresser. She ate because her body demanded it. Showered because the smell of sewage and smoke had soaked into her skin. Found clothes in the closet that fit perfectly because Elena Volkov was apparently the kind of person who planned for every contingency. When Selena emerged into the main room, she found it transformed into a war room. Maps covered every surface, photographs, documents, laptops displaying security footage. And in the center of it all, Damiano stood shirtless, except for bandages, studying the layouts like a general planning an invasion. 6 men she didn't recognize flanked him. Hard-eyed professionals who looked at her with the same assessment they'd give a weapon or a vehicle. Rosa sat in the corner cleaning her gun with the focused attention of someone who found meditation in maintenance. And Elena perched on the arm of her sculpture chair, watching everything with predatory interest. "You're awake," Damiano said without turning. "Good. We're almost ready to move." Selena crossed to the nearest map, recognized the streets, downtown Chicago, the financial district. "What am I looking at?" Barone's primary office. Legitimate front for his operations. 17 floors. Security on every level. And where he'll be tomorrow night for a meeting with his financial advisors. "You're going to attack him in his own building. I'm going to walk in the front door and gut his organization from the inside." Damiano finally looked at her. Dark circles under his eyes. Skin pale beneath the stubble. But his focus was absolute. "Elena's people have been running surveillance for the past 12 hours. We have his security schedules, building schematics, guard rotations, everything we need. It's suicide. It's necessary. Barone thinks I'm dead or running. He won't expect a frontal assault, which is exactly why he'll be prepared for one." Rosa spoke up. "She's right. Barone didn't survive 40 years in this business by underestimating his enemies. He'll have contingencies." "Then we'll adapt." Damiano's tone allowed no argument. "We hit him tomorrow night, 9 p.m., when the building's mostly empty except for security and his inner circle." "And what's my role in this suicide mission?" Selena asked. "You stay here, where it's safe." "Not a chance, Selena. You don't get to lock me in a cage while you go get yourself killed. Either I'm part of this or I'm not." "You're a civilian. You have no training." "I also have the element of surprise. Barone's seen your face, your security, everyone in your organization, but he's never seen me up close." Her mind raced, pieces clicking together. "I can get past his front door, play helpless, confused, lost." "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because it's dangerous. Everything's dangerous. At least this way I'm doing something useful instead of sitting here waiting to find out if you survived." Damiano looked at Elena. "Tell her this is insane." It's insane, Elena agreed. It's also tactically sound. A woman in distress gets further than armed men, especially if she's as pretty as this one. I'm not using Selena as bait. You're not. I'm volunteering. Selena moved to stand directly in front of him. You want to protect me? Fine. Teach me. Give me a weapon. Show me how to survive in your world instead of treating me like glass. The room went silent, every eye on them, watching the power struggle play out. Damiano's jaw worked like he was chewing glass. If I agree to this, if you follow my orders exactly, no improvising, no heroics, you create an opening and you get out. Understood? Understood. And you wear body armor, comms, and Rosa doesn't let you out of her sight. Deal. He closed his eyes. Looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. I'm going to regret this. Probably, Selena admitted. But at least we'll regret it together. Rosa stood, holstering her weapon. If we're doing this, she needs training. Basic firearms, situational awareness, how to move in a hostile environment. How long do we have? Damiano asked. 28 hours until the operation window. Then we start now. He looked at Selena. Last chance to change your mind. Not happening. Then welcome to hell. The next 28 hours blurred into a nightmare of preparation. Rosa drilled Selena on weapons until her hands shook, taught her the difference between covering fire and suppressive fire, showed her how to clear a jam, how to reload under pressure, how to shoot without thinking because thinking got you killed. They practiced scenarios until Selena could move through a room checking corners by instinct. One of Elena's people, a compact woman who moved like a dancer and fought like a demon, taught Selena basic hand-to-hand. Not fancy martial arts, just efficient brutality, eyes, throat, groin, the vulnerable places that dropped people fast. Damiano supervised everything with the focused intensity of someone preparing for war, which they were. The plan crystallized through endless repetition. Selena would enter through the front lobby, play confused, looking for a friend who worked in the building. Security would direct her to the elevators. Rosa, disguised as maintenance, would already be inside. Positioned near the stairwells, Damiano and Elena's strike team would hit the parking garage simultaneously, cut power, lock down the building. Then they'd move up floor by floor while Selena created chaos in Barone's executive suite. It was a terrible plan, too many variables, too many ways to die. But it was the only plan they had. The night before the operation, Selena found Damiano alone in the war room. Everyone else had collapsed from exhaustion, but he stood at the windows staring at Chicago's skyline like he could will it into submission. You should sleep, she said. Can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see everything going wrong. Then you're imagining the same thing I am. He turned, looked at her like he was memorizing every detail. I need you to promise me something. What? If this goes bad, if Barone gets the upper hand, you run. You don't try to save me. You don't wait. You just run, and you keep running until you're somewhere he'll never find you. I'm not promising that. Selena, no, you don't get to ask me to abandon you. Not now. Not after everything we've survived. I'm asking you to live. And I'm telling you that living without you isn't living. It's just existing. She crossed to him, took his face in her hands. We do this together or not at all? Damiano kissed her, slow, desperate, tasting like goodbye and determination in equal measure. When they broke apart, his forehead rested against hers. If we survive this. When we survive this. When we survive this, he corrected, I'm getting you out of Chicago. Somewhere safe. Somewhere my family and Barone and all of this can't touch us. Where? I don't know. Somewhere warm, where we can pretend to be normal people for a while. We'll never be normal. I know, but we can pretend. They spent the night holding each other, not talking, not making love, just existing in the space between who they'd been and who they were about to become. When dawn broke, Selena felt it like a physical weight. Today was the day. Live or die. Win or lose. No more running. The team assembled at 7 p.m. Rosa checked equipment with the methodical precision of someone who'd done this 100 times. Elena's strike team loaded weapons that looked like they belonged in a war zone. and Damiano transformed into something Selena had only glimpsed before. The Predator. Cold. Calculating. Every gesture economical. Every word a command. He helped Selena into body armor that felt like wearing a medieval knight's chainmail. Checked her weapon. Her comms. The panic button wired directly to Rosa's earpiece. "Remember," he said, "you're just a lost woman, confused, harmless. You get to the 17th floor and you create a distraction. Then Rosa extracts you." "I remember. And if shooting starts before we're in position, I get down, stay down, and wait for Rosa." "Good." He kissed her once, hard. "I love you. I love you too." "Then let's go finish this." They split into 3 vehicles, Selena and Rosa in a sedan that looked like every other corporate drone's ride, Damiano and the strike team in a van loaded with enough weapons to invade a small country, Elena in her own vehicle, coordinating from a mobile command center that probably cost more than most people's houses. The drive downtown took 20 minutes through rush hour traffic. Selena watched the city slide past and tried to control her breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, like Rosa had taught her. The Baroni building loomed against the twilight sky, glass and steel, anonymous, the kind of corporate fortress that could hide any number of sins behind legitimate business. The sedan dropped Selena 2 blocks away. She walked the rest. Just another woman in business casual heading home after a long day, except for the body armor under her blouse, and the weapon pressed against her spine, and the comms device hidden in her ear. The lobby was all marble and modern art. Security desk manned by 2 guards who looked bored. Selena approached with what she hoped was confusion. "Excuse me? I'm looking for my friend Lisa. She works in accounting. I was supposed to meet her, but I think I have the wrong building." The guard barely looked up from his phone. "What floor?" "I'm not sure. She just said the Barone building. Accounting's on 12. Elevators are that way." "Thank you so much." She walked toward the elevators like she belonged there. In her ear, Rosa's voice. "I'm in position. Stairwell B. You're doing great." Damiano's voice. "Strike team entering parking garage now. 60 seconds until power cut." Selena pressed the button for the 17th floor. The elevator climbed. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. 10th floor. 12th. 15th. Rosa again. "We have a problem. Extra security on 17. At least 6 guards. More than intelligence reported." Damiano. "Can you handle it?" "Not without alerting the whole floor." Selena's voice, surprising herself. "I can distract them. Get them looking the wrong way." "Negative. Too dangerous." "We don't have another option. Either I create chaos or we abort." Silence. Then Damiano's voice, rough with emotion. 30 seconds. Make it count." The elevator dinged. Doors opened onto the 17th floor. 6 guards exactly like Rosa had said, positioned at strategic points. Weapons visible under jackets. And at the far end of the hall, through glass walls, Selena could see Raphael Barone sitting in a conference room with 4 other men. She stepped out of the elevator. Stumbled. Let herself fall. Hit the marble hard enough to hurt. All 6 guards turned. "Ma'am, are you all right?" Selena looked up with tears she didn't have to fake. "I'm sorry. I'm looking for my sister. She works here and she's not answering her phone. And I'm so worried. This floor is private. You need to leave. Please, just let me check. Her name's Maria Barone. She's Raffaele's niece." The closest guard grabbed her arm. Not gently. "There's no Maria Barone. You need to leave. Now." "But she said—" The lights died. Every bulb, every screen, the entire building plunged into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in 3 seconds later. But 3 seconds was enough. Rosa appeared from the stairwell like a ghost. 2 shots. Suppressed. 2 guards dropped. The other 4 scrambled for weapons. Selena rolled away as gunfire erupted. Found cover behind a reception desk that definitely wasn't bulletproof. More shots, screaming from the conference room. Then Damiano's voice in her ear. "All teams, go! Go! Go!" The stairwell door exploded inward. Elena's strike team poured through like a flood. Automatic weapons, tactical gear, moving with military precision. The remaining guards never had a chance. Selena stayed down, hands over her head, while violence erupted around her. 30 seconds of chaos. Then silence. Rosa pulled her up. You okay? I think so. Then move. Damiano's heading for the conference room. They ran. Through the carnage, past bodies Selina refused to look at. Toward the glass-walled conference room where Raffaele Barone had overturned a table for cover and was screaming into a phone. Damiano kicked the door open. Barone fired twice. Both shots went wide. Damiano walked through the gunfire like it didn't exist, grabbed Barone by the throat, slammed him against the window hard enough to crack glass. You burned my home, Damiano said. Conversational, almost friendly. Tried to kill the woman I love. Made a deal with my traitor brother. Damiano, wait. We can negotiate. I'm done negotiating. He dragged Barone to the center of the room where the rest of the strike team had secured the other men from the meeting. Financial advisors, probably. Lawyers. Men who thought they were safe because they worked in offices instead of the streets. All of you, Damiano said. You're going to deliver a message to whoever takes over after Raphael's gone. The Castelli territory is closed. The shipping contracts are ours, and anyone who tries to change that ends up like him. He pressed his weapon against Barone's temple. Wait! One of the advisors, younger, terrified. You kill him! You start a war that destroys half the city. The war's already started. I'm just ending it. Damiano's finger tightened on the trigger. Boss. Rosa's voice. We have incoming. Police. SWAT. Someone triggered a silent alarm. Elena's voice over comms. All teams extract. Now. Buildings surrounded. Damiano didn't move. Didn't lower the weapon. Just stared at Raffaele Barone with the cold focus of someone who'd already made peace with whatever came next. Damiano. Selina's voice cut through the chaos. We need to go. Not yet. We don't have time. I said not yet. He pressed the weapon harder against Barone's skull. This man tried to take everything from me. He doesn't get to walk away. And killing him here gets us all arrested or killed. I don't care. Yes, you do, because you promised me somewhere warm, somewhere we could pretend to be normal. Selina stepped closer despite Rosa's warning hand. You keep that promise by walking away. Right now. Sirens screamed closer. Damiano's hand shook. For 5 heartbeats, Selina thought he'd pull the trigger anyway. Then he lowered the weapon. Looked at Barone with pure contempt. You're not worth it. Living with the knowledge that you couldn't kill me, that's punishment enough. He turned toward the door, and Raffaele Barone, bleeding and broken on the floor, made his last mistake. He grabbed a weapon from one of his dead guards, aimed at Damiano's back. Selina saw it happening in slow motion, saw Barone's finger tightening on the trigger, saw Damiano turning too slow to stop it. Made a choice. She stepped between them, raised her own weapon, and fired. The recoil nearly knocked her over, but the bullet found its target. Raffaele Barone collapsed with a hole in his chest and surprise frozen on his face. Selina stared at what she'd done, at the man she'd just killed, at the blood spreading across expensive carpet. Damiano grabbed her arm. We need to move. They ran, through corridors, down stairwells, past police already breaching the lower floors. Elena's voice in their ears. Parking garage, black van, 30 seconds. They burst into the garage as SWAT teams poured through the opposite entrance. The van's door hung open. They dove inside. Tires screamed. The van rocketed through the exit ramp, emerged onto Michigan Avenue in a shower of sparks and burning rubber. Police cars gave chase, helicopters overhead. The city lit up like a war zone. They switched vehicles twice in underground parking structures, lost the pursuit in the maze of Lower Wacker Drive. Finally emerged on the south side, far from the chaos, in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions. Elena's backup safe house was a converted factory. No luxury this time, just raw space and the bare minimum for survival. The team dispersed, securing the perimeter, cleaning weapons, dealing with the aftermath of what they'd just done. Selina sat on a bare mattress in a corner and stared at her hands. They didn't shake. They should have. She'd just killed a man, shot him in the chest without hesitation, watched him die, and felt nothing except relief that it hadn't been Damiano. Rosa appeared with a bottle of vodka. Drink this. Selina drank. It burned all the way down. First kill? Rosa asked. Is it that obvious? You're not throwing up or crying. That's actually a good sign. Rosa sat beside her. Want to talk about it? Not really. Then I'll tell you what my first instructor told me. You made a choice, life or death. You chose life, that's all that matters. Is it? Has to be. Otherwise we'd all go crazy. Damiano appeared in the doorway. Rosa stood. I'll give you two some space. She left. Damiano crossed to the mattress and sat heavily. His shoulder was bleeding again. Selena pulled the first aid kit toward them and started changing the dressing with hands that still didn't shake. You saved my life, Damiano said quietly. I know. You killed Raffaele Barone. I know that too. How do you feel? Selena finished securing the bandage and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who dragged her into hell and stayed beside her the whole way down. I feel like I finally understand your world. And I hate that I understand it. And I'm terrified of who I might become if I stay in it. She took his hand. But I'm more terrified of losing you. So here I am, covered in blood, wanted by the police, everything I swore I'd never become. We can still run. New identities, new lives. Elena owes us that much. And go where? Pretend to be who? I don't know. Normal people. Coffee shop owners, teachers, anyone except who we are. Selena laughed. It came out bitter. We'll never be normal. You know that, right? We've gone too far, done too much. There's no coming back from this. Maybe not. But we can try. Or we can stop running. The words came out before she'd fully thought them through. Stop pretending. Stop hiding. We wanted war. We got it. Now we finish it. Not by running, by taking everything. Damiano stared at her like seeing someone new. You're serious. Your brother betrayed you. Your mother tried to kill you. Barone's dead, but his organization remains, so we don't run. We take it. All of it. We build something new from the ashes. You're talking about becoming exactly what I've been trying to escape. No, I'm talking about becoming what we need to be to survive. Together. She grabbed his face. You said I make you human. Fine. I'll be human enough for both of us. But I won't be weak. I won't run. And I won't watch you destroy yourself trying to protect me from a world I've already chosen. Outside, Chicago burned with sirens and searchlights. Inside, Damiano Castelli looked at the woman who'd killed for him and made a choice. Okay, he whispered. No more running. We take it all. Together? Together. He kissed her, and Selena tasted blood and gunpowder and the future they were about to carve from the ruins. Tomorrow they'd deal with Lucien, with Viviana, with the empire that wanted them dead. But tonight they'd survived, and survival was enough. The news broke at dawn. Raphael Barone dead, his executive suite painted in blood, 17 people injured, Chicago's underworld thrown into chaos overnight. The reporters called it a gang war. The police called it organized crime. The FBI called it an opportunity. And in Elena Volkov's backup safe house, Selena watched the coverage on a laptop while the man she loved planned the endgame. Damiano hadn't slept. His shoulder was a mess of fresh bandages and stubborn will. But his eyes held the kind of clarity that came from crossing a line you couldn't uncross. Lucien will make his move today, he said to the assembled team. Rosa, Elena, and 4 of her best operators sat around a table made from a shipping pallet. He thinks I'm dead or running. Thinks he can step into the vacuum Barone left and consolidate power. Where is he? Rosa asked. The estate. Mother's protecting him. She thinks he's the family's future now that I've gone rogue. Damiano's voice held zero emotion, just cold calculation. Which means we go there. Today. And we end this. Elena raised an eyebrow. You're going to attack your own family home. I'm going to take back what's mine. The estate has security that makes Barone's building look like a daycare. 20 guards minimum. Surveillance everywhere. Your mother's not stupid, Damiano. She'll be expecting you. Good. I want her to see me coming. He pulled up schematics on the laptop. The Castelli estate. Every room. Every entrance. I grew up in that house. I know every blind spot. Every weak point. Places even Mother doesn't remember exist. Selena studied the layout. The mansion sat on 6 acres. Walls on all sides, gates that required codes and biometrics, a fortress designed to keep people out, or in. What's the objective? She asked. We can't kill everyone in there. That's mass murder. The objective is Lucien, and a conversation with my mother that's 20 years overdue. Damiano's finger traced a route through the eastern gardens. There's a service entrance here. Deliveries. Maintenance. It's monitored, but not as heavily as the main gates. And once we're inside, we find Lucien. Extract him. Make sure everyone in the family understands exactly what happens to traitors. His eyes met Selena's. This is the last one. After today, it's done. We disappear. But I need to do this first. Rosa leaned back. You're talking about kidnapping your brother from your mother's house and delivering your own brand of justice. That's not warfare. That's personal. It's always been personal. Elena spoke quietly. If you do this, if you take Lucien, Viviana will never forgive you. You'll be cutting ties with your family permanently. They cut ties when they tried to kill me. Damiano closed the laptop. I'm just making it official. The plan was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Elena's team would create a diversion at the main gate, draw security attention. Meanwhile, Damiano, Selena, and Rosa would infiltrate through the service entrance using codes Damiano had memorized years ago and prayed hadn't been changed. They'd move through the gardens to the main house, locate Lucien, extract him to a secondary location where Damiano could deal with him away from witnesses. It was a terrible plan, but every alternative was worse. They moved at noon when the sun was high and visibility was maximum. No hiding in shadows, just bold action and desperate hope. 3 vehicles approached the estate from different directions. Elena's team in a catering van that looked legitimate enough to pass a casual inspection. Damiano's group in a landscaping truck that had actually been used for landscaping until 2 hours ago when Elena's people liberated it. The main gate loomed ahead. Stone pillars, iron gates, security cameras tracking their approach. Damiano drove with the casual confidence of someone who belonged. Pulled up to the service entrance. Punched in a code that was either current or would trigger every alarm in the system. The gate opened. Selena released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. They drove through gardens Selena recognized from her single visit. Perfectly manicured lawns. Sculptures that probably cost more than houses. The kind of beauty that money could buy but couldn't create. The service entrance was around back. Loading dock for deliveries, staff parking. 2 guards stood watch. Damiano parked like he had every right to be there. Climbed out. The guards recognized him immediately. Mr. Castelli, we were told you were... Damiano shot them both. Suppressed rounds. Quick. Professional. They dropped without screaming. Selena's stomach churned, but she kept moving. Helped Rosa drag the bodies behind a dumpster while Damiano disabled the security camera with practiced efficiency. We have maybe 3 minutes before someone notices the feed's dead, he said. Move. They entered through a door that opened into the kitchen. Industrial-sized. The kind of space designed to cater events for 100 guests. Empty now except for one woman in her 50s wearing an apron and looking terrified. The head housekeeper. Maria something. Selena had met her briefly during the disastrous dinner weeks ago. Maria's eyes went wide. Damiano, you're alive, they said. Where's my brother? The study, with your mother. They're meeting with family, making arrangements. For what? Your funeral. Maria's voice cracked. They think you died in the building collapse last week. Of course they did. Damiano had been radio silent. No contact with the family. From their perspective, he had vanished during the chaos, and Lucien had stepped into the void. Stay here, Damiano told Maria. Lock the door. Don't come out until you hear silence. They moved through the house like ghosts haunting familiar spaces. Selena recognized the halls from before. The portraits. The expensive emptiness. But now she saw it differently. Not a fortress. A prison. A place where emotions went to die and family became currency. Voices echoed from the study. Damiano held up a fist. Everyone stopped. Through the partially open door, Selena could see figures. Viviana in black like she was already in mourning. Lucien wearing a suit that probably cost what Selena used to make in 6 months. And 4 other people, family members probably. The board of directors for the Castelli Empire. Viviana's voice carried clear authority. With Damiano gone and Raffaele Barone eliminated, we have an opportunity to consolidate power. Lucien has proven himself capable of making difficult decisions. Difficult decisions? Damiano kicked the door open. Is that what we're calling treason now? Every head turned. Viviana went pale. Lucien reached for a weapon that wasn't there. The other family members scattered like roaches when the lights came on. Damiano walked into the study with Rosa and Selena flanking him, weapons visible, intentions clear. "Hello, mother, brother. I hear you've been busy planning my funeral." Viviana recovered first. She always did. "Damiano, we thought, yeah, you thought I was dead because you blew up a building with me inside." His voice was conversational, almost friendly, which made it more terrifying. "Tell me, mother, when you gave that order, did you hesitate? Did you consider that I might survive? Or was killing your own son just another business decision?" "I was protecting the family." "You were protecting your idea of what the family should be. Cold, ruthless, exactly like father." He stepped closer. "But I'm not father, and I'm not going to disappear quietly so you can pretend this world is still yours to control." Lucien spoke up, trying for bravado and missing badly. "You can't just walk in here. I grew up here. This is my house as much as yours." "Not anymore. Mother's made her choice. The family's made their choice. You're out, Damiano, and bringing your whore here won't change that." Rosa's weapon came up. Selena put a hand on her arm. "Don't. He's not worth the bullet." Lucien's face flushed. "You have no idea what you've cost us. What your little love story destroyed. Barone's organization is in chaos. The shipping contracts are contested, and the FBI is investigating everything because you couldn't keep your dick in your pants." Damiano moved so fast, Selena almost missed it, grabbed Lucien by the throat, slammed him against the bookshelf hard enough to knock leather-bound first editions onto the floor. "You sold me out to Barone, made a deal that would have gotten me killed, burned my home, and now you're standing here acting like I'm the problem? You chose her over family," Lucien choked out, "over everything Father built." "Father built an empire on suffering. I'm choosing to build something different. You're choosing to destroy everything." "No." Damiano released him, let him collapse, gasping. "I'm choosing to save what's left of my soul. There's a difference." Viviana moved between them. "This is enough, both of you. We're family. We don't resolve disputes like common criminals." "We are criminals, Mother. We've always been criminals. You just dressed it up in charity galas and political donations." Damiano's voice was tired now, exhausted. "But I'm done pretending. Done playing by rules that only exist to maintain power for people who don't deserve it." "Then what do you want?" "I want Lucien. He betrayed the family. By your own rules, that's a death sentence." "You're not killing your brother." "I'm not asking permission." Viviana stepped closer. Her voice dropped to something that might have been pleading in a woman who didn't plead. "He's your blood, Damiano. Your only brother. You kill him, you become exactly what your father was." "Maybe, but at least I'll be honest about it." Selena had been silent through the whole exchange, watching, learning, understanding the dynamics that had shaped the man she loved. But this, watching him prepare to execute his own brother, was a line she couldn't ignore. "Stop," she said. Everyone turned. "Stop," she repeated. "This isn't justice, it's revenge, and revenge is what got us here in the first place." "He tried to kill us," Damiano said. "I know, but killing him makes us the same as everyone else in this world, just another group of people solving problems with violence. That's all this world understands. Then maybe we change the world." She stepped forward, aware of every eye on her. "Lucien deserves punishment, but not death, something worse, something permanent." Viviana's eyes narrowed. "What are you suggesting?" "Exile. Strip him of everything. Name, money, protection. Make him nobody. Let him survive in a world that doesn't care who his family was or what power he thought he had." The room went silent. Lucien looked between them like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You can't be serious. I'd rather die." "Then you're a coward," Selena said flatly. "Death is easy. Living with the consequences of your choices? That's hard. That's real punishment." Damiano stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked at his mother. "Make the arrangements. Lucien Castelli dies today. Issue a death certificate, obituary, the full performance. But the body is never found because he's going to spend the rest of his life as nobody. No family. No money. No protection. Just survival." "You can't do this," Lucien started. It's done. Damiano pulled out his phone, made a call. Marco, I need full erasure. Lucien Castelli. Every account, every asset, every connection. Transfer it all to offshore holding companies I control. Make him disappear. He hung up, looked at his brother with something that might have been pity in a man who still remembered how to feel it. You wanted my position, wanted the empire. Now you get to see what it's like to have nothing, no name to trade on, no family to bail you out, just you and the world. Let's see how long you survive. Rosa grabbed Lucien, started dragging him toward the door. He fought, screamed, begged. Nobody moved to help him. Not Viviana, not the other family members. Nobody. Because in their world, exile was death. Just slower. When the door closed behind them, Damiano turned to his mother. I'm taking the shipping operations. The legitimate businesses. Everything father built that can be separated from the violence. You keep the rest, the territory, the soldiers, the empire of blood. You're splitting the family. The family split the moment you chose Lucien over me. I'm just making it official. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is a contract, drawn up by lawyers who don't ask questions. It divides our interests cleanly. You stay out of my territory, I stay out of yours. And if I refuse, then we go to war. Real war. Not boardroom politics or family dinners. I'll burn every asset you have until there's nothing left but ashes and regret. His voice went cold. Your choice, mother. Peace or destruction. Viviana took the envelope, read it with the careful attention of someone who'd spent a lifetime reading contracts. Then she pulled a pen from the desk and signed. You've become everything I feared, she said quietly. Strong, ruthless, willing to destroy anything that threatens what you love. I learned from the best, that's not a compliment. I know. Damiano took the signed contract. Goodbye, mother. I hope the Empire keeps you warm at night. He turned to leave. Viviana spoke one last time. That girl, she's changed you. Yes, she has. For better or worse. Damiano looked at Selena, really looked at her, seeing everything she'd become, everything they'd survived. For human, he said, which is the best I could hope for. They left through the front door this time. No sneaking, no hiding, just walking out of a house that had been a prison disguised as a palace. Rosa had already transported Lucien to whatever black site Elena used for people who needed to disappear. Selena didn't ask for details. Didn't want to know. Some things were better left to professionals. Elena's team extracted cleanly. No casualties except the 2 guards Damiano had dropped on entry. Even they would survive with medical attention that was probably already being administered. The convoy regrouped 3 miles from the estate. Elena emerged from her vehicle looking pleased. I have to say that went better than expected. No war, no massacre, just clean business. It's not done yet, Damiano said. No? There's one more thing I need to do. He drove to Belladonna, the restaurant where everything had started. It was closed for the lunch shift, empty except for staff preparing for dinner service. Marco was there, wiping down the bar, looking older than he had 3 weeks ago. He saw Damiano and Selena enter, and his expression cycled through shock, relief, and resignation. You're alive. Disappointed? Damiano asked. Terrified. For you. For her. For everyone caught in the crossfire of whatever war you've been fighting. Marco set down his towel. The news is calling what happened at the Baroni building domestic terrorism. The FBI is investigating, and rumors are spreading that the Castelli family is falling apart. The rumors are true. The family's fractured. Lucien's gone. My mother and I have divided the empire. Damiano pulled out a checkbook, wrote numbers that made Marco's eyes widen. This is for you and the staff, compensation for everything that happened here, every bit of chaos that spilled over from my world into yours. I can't accept this. You can and you will, because Selena worked here for 2 years and you treated her like family when she had nothing. This is me saying thank you for that. He set the check on the bar. Then he looked around the restaurant. Crystal chandeliers, white marble, the place where a waitress had dropped some plates and a king had noticed. This is where it started, Selena said quietly. I know. Feels like a lifetime ago. It was. We're different people now. Marco cleared his throat. So what happens next? You two disappearing? Witness protection? Something like that. Damiano took Selena's hand. We're leaving Chicago, starting over somewhere nobody knows our names or our history. And the Empire? Being managed by people I trust. I'm keeping oversight, but stepping back from daily operations, trying to build something legitimate from what Father left behind. That's optimistic. It's necessary. I've spent my whole life becoming what my father wanted. Time to try becoming what I want. They left Belladonna one last time. Selena paused at the door, looked back at the dining room where she'd worked doubles until her feet bled, where she'd smiled at customers who didn't see her and served food she couldn't afford. That life felt like it belonged to someone else. And maybe it did. The woman who'd existed 3 weeks ago wouldn't recognize who she'd become. Killer, survivor, partner to a man who operated in shadows. But she was still standing, still breathing, still choosing this life, even knowing the cost. That had to count for something. The next 48 hours were administrative, transferring assets, closing accounts, erasing evidence of lives that needed to end so new ones could begin. Elena handled most of it with the efficiency of someone who'd disappeared people before. New passports, new identities, new histories manufactured from whole cloth. Damiano Castelli died in a private plane crash off the coast of Florida. The news barely covered it. Just another wealthy man who'd pushed his luck too far. Selena Vale disappeared into the ether. No death certificate, no explanation. Just a waitress who'd stopped showing up to work and nobody cared enough to investigate. The people who replaced them had different names, different backgrounds, different futures. On the third day, they boarded a flight to Lisbon under documents that identified them as Mr. and Mrs. Costa. Software developers relocating for work. Boring, forgettable, invisible. The flight was 14 hours. Selena slept for most of it, exhaustion finally catching up now that the adrenaline had drained away. Damiano stayed awake, watching the clouds, watching her, looking like a man trying to believe in second chances. They landed in a city neither had visited before, rented an apartment in Alfama with views of the Tagus River and streets so narrow cars couldn't pass. It was nothing like Chicago, ancient instead of modern, intimate instead of sprawling, a place where history soaked into the cobblestones and nobody cared about American gang wars. For the first week, they did nothing, slept, ate, walked the hills until their legs burned, slowly remembered what it felt like to exist without constantly checking over their shoulders. On the 8th day, Selena woke to find Damiano on their tiny balcony, drinking coffee and staring at the river. She joined him, wrapped in a blanket against the morning chill. "You're thinking too loud," she said. "Sorry. What's on your mind?" "Everything we left behind, everyone we hurt, whether any of this was worth it." Selena was quiet for a moment, then, "I killed a man, shot him in the chest and watched him die. I should feel something about that. Guilt, remorse, horror, but mostly I just feel tired. That's normal." "Is it? Normal people don't kill other people." "We stopped being normal people the night you got into my car. Do you regret it? Any of it?" Damiano looked at her, really looked, and Selena saw all the weight he carried, every choice, every consequence, every life damaged by the empire he'd inherited. "I regret that you had to become someone who kills to survive. I regret that my world corrupted yours. I regret that I wasn't strong enough to walk away before dragging you into the fire." He took her hand. "But I don't regret loving you, and I don't regret the fact that you're here, alive, beside me. Even though I'm damaged now, we're both damaged, that's the point. We understand each other's scars." They sat in silence while Lisbon woke up around them. Fishermen heading to boats, shopkeepers opening shutters, normal people living normal lives. Lives Damiano and Selena would never have, but maybe they could pretend for a while. "I'm going back to school," Selena said suddenly. "Not medicine. I don't think I could do that anymore, but something, psychology maybe. Understanding why people do terrible things to each other. That's a good idea. And you?" "I'm going to try being legitimate. Elena's people are managing the day-to-day operations. I'll consult remotely. Make sure nothing slides back into what Father built. But no more hands-on violence. No more direct involvement. You think you can do that? Step away?" "I don't know, but I'm going to try." He squeezed her hand. "For you, for us, for the chance at something better than what we left behind." A month passed, then two. Slowly, they built a routine that resembled normal. Selena enrolled in classes at the University of Lisbon. Her Portuguese was terrible but improving. The other students thought she was American, running from a bad marriage probably. Nobody asked too many questions. Damiano worked remotely, managing investments, steering the Castelli operations toward legitimacy. It was boring, tedious, everything his father would have hated. He loved it. They rented a small storefront in Muraria and opened a cafe. Nothing fancy, just coffee and pastries, and a place for locals to gather. Selena worked mornings. Damiano handled afternoons. They hired 2 staff and paid them twice the going rate because they could afford to, and it felt good to give instead of take. It was simple, quiet, the opposite of everything they'd survived. On the 6-month anniversary of leaving Chicago, Selena woke to find an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside was a newspaper clipping, Chicago Tribune, business section. The headline read, "Castelli Foundation breaks ground on new trauma center." The article detailed a multi-million-dollar donation to build a state-of-the-art medical facility in one of Chicago's most underserved neighborhoods. Anonymous funding. But everyone quoted in the article knew exactly whose money had built it. Viviana Castelli's quote was particularly pointed. "My son believed in giving back to the community. This center honors his memory and his commitment to healing." Selena looked up. Damiano stood in the doorway, watching her read. "You did this," she said. "We did this. That money came from your idea. The foundation you wanted to build when we thought we had a future in Chicago. But you're supposed to be dead." "I am dead. Damiano Castelli died in a plane crash, but his money lives on, doing good, helping people who need it." Selena's eyes burned. "This is real. An actual trauma center. Lives saved. People helped. It's one good thing in a lifetime of terrible ones, but it's a start." She crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him, felt his heartbeat against hers. 2 people who'd survived hell and somehow found each other on the other side. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too. Every damaged, dangerous, beautiful part of you." They stood in their tiny Lisbon apartment while morning light painted everything gold and the city murmured its daily rhythms outside. 6 months later, Rosa visited. She appeared at the cafe during the afternoon lull, looking exactly the same except for longer hair and civilian clothes that didn't hide weapons as well as her old gear. Damiano saw her first. His hand moved toward a gun that wasn't there anymore before he recognized her. "Jesus, Rosa, knock first." "I did. You were too busy making espresso to notice." She sat at a corner table. "Nice place. Very domestic. What are you doing here?" "Delivering news. Thought you'd want to hear it in person." Selena joined them with 3 cups of coffee. "Good news or bad news?" "Depends on your perspective." Rosa pulled out a tablet, showed them a series of photographs. Lucien, looking gaunt, wearing clothes that had seen better days, standing in a soup kitchen line in Detroit. "He's surviving," Rosa said. "Barely. Works odd jobs, lives in a rooming house. Nobody knows who he was. Nobody cares." "And he hasn't tried to come back?" Damiano asked. "Twice. Both times, Elena's people redirected him. He's learning, slowly, that the world doesn't care about his name or his family, that survival requires actual work." "Is that why you came? To show us Lucien's suffering?" "Partially, but also to tell you the rest." Rosa swiped to a new image. "Your mother's dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. She has maybe 6 months." The air went out of the room. Damiano stared at the photo. Viviana in a hospital gown, looking smaller than he'd ever seen her. Mortal. "She knows?" "Yes. And she's refusing treatment. Says she's lived long enough." "Does she know I'm alive?" "I think she suspects. But she's not asking questions. Just managing her affairs. Making sure the organization survives after she's gone." Damiano was quiet for a long time. Then, "Tell her I forgive her. For the building, for choosing Lucien, for everything. Tell her she did what she thought was right, and I understand." "You want me to tell her you're alive?" "No. Let her die believing her son is dead. It's kinder than the truth." Rosa nodded, finished her coffee. "One more thing. The FBI closed their investigation. Ruled Barone's death gang-related. Couldn't tie anyone specific to it. You're clear. We're ghosts anyway. True. But it's nice to be ghosts who aren't actively wanted for murder. She stood. Take care of yourselves. Both of you. You earned this peace. She left as quietly as she'd arrived. Damiano sat staring at nothing while Selina cleaned tables that didn't need cleaning. Are you okay? She finally asked. My mother's dying. My brother's destroyed. My father's empire is being dismantled piece by piece. Everything I grew up believing was permanent is falling apart. And how do you feel about that? Relieved. He looked at her. Is that terrible? To feel relieved that the world I came from is dying? No. It's human. You're allowed to mourn what was while being grateful it's over. What if the peace doesn't last? What if someone finds us, figures out who we really are? Then we deal with it, together, the way we've dealt with everything else. You make it sound simple. It is simple. We survived. We're here. We're building something new. That's all that matters. Damiano pulled her close, and for the first time in his life, he let himself believe it might be true. 1 year after leaving Chicago, they closed the cafe for a weekend and took a train to the Algarve. Rented a cottage on the beach where the Atlantic crashed against cliffs and the world felt huge and empty and clean. They walked the shoreline at sunset, talked about everything and nothing, made love with the windows open and the sound of waves providing soundtrack. On the last night, Damiano built a fire on the beach, pulled out a folder he'd been carrying in his bag. What's that? Selina asked. The last piece of our old lives. He opened it, showed her documents, photographs, evidence of everything they'd been. Damiano Castelli's entire history, Selina Vale's paper trail. We burn it, he said, tonight, completely. No evidence, no trail back, just ashes and ocean. Selina looked at her own face in identification photos. The woman she'd been. Exhausted. Drowning. Desperate. That woman didn't exist anymore. Okay, she said. Let's do it. They fed the documents to the flames, watched their old identities curl and blacken and disappear into smoke. When the last piece had burned, Damiano pulled something else from his pocket. A small box. Velvet. Worn. He opened it. Inside was a ring, simple gold band, nothing ostentatious, just metal and meaning. I can't give you a big wedding, can't introduce you to family or have a ceremony with witnesses, but I can give you this. He took her hand. Marry me. Not legally, not officially, but in every way that matters. Be my wife, my partner, the person I choose every day for the rest of my life. Selina's throat closed. She looked at the ring, at the man offering it, at the life they'd built from ruins. Yes, she whispered. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. They kissed while the fire burned down and the ocean provided benediction. And somewhere in the universe, every choice they'd made, every terrible decision, every act of violence, every moment of grace led to this. Two people who'd survived hell, found each other, and chose to keep choosing each other. Every single day. 5 years later, Selina stood in a lecture hall at the University of Lisbon. She'd defended her thesis on trauma and resilience that morning, passed with distinction. The professors had been impressed by her understanding of how people survived impossible circumstances. They didn't know she was speaking from experience. Damiano waited outside, leaning against a tree, reading a book, looking like every other academic spouse who'd sat through more thesis defenses than they could count. He smiled when he saw her. Dr. Costa, how does it feel? Surreal, but good. She kissed him. How's the cafe? Busy. Paolo's handling it. He's good. Better than we were at the start. They walked through the campus hand in hand. Just another couple. Unremarkable. Forgettable. Exactly what they'd fought so hard to become. That night, back in their apartment overlooking the river, Selina found Damiano on the balcony again. Same spot he'd stood 5 years ago when they'd first arrived. But different. Lighter, somehow. What are you thinking about? She asked. My mother. She died 3 years ago today. And I still haven't decided if I made the right choice letting her believe I was dead. Did it protect her? Maybe. She died thinking her son was gone, but her empire would survive. That's what she cared about most. Then you gave her peace, in your own way. What about Lucien? What about him? Rosa's last report said he's still in Detroit, still surviving, still nobody. Part of me wonders if we were too cruel, if exile was worse than death. He's alive. He has choices. That's more than a lot of people in your old world got. Damiano nodded, pulled her close. They stood watching the city lights reflect on water. Do you ever regret it? He asked. Choosing this life, becoming someone you never planned to be? Every day, Selena admitted. I regret the violence, the people who died, the innocence I lost. But I don't regret you. I don't regret us. And I don't regret surviving when so many others didn't. That's not really an answer. It's the only answer I have. She turned in his arms. We did terrible things, made impossible choices, hurt people who probably didn't deserve it. But we're also here, building lives that help instead of harm. That has to count for something. Does it balance out? I don't know. Maybe we spend the rest of our lives trying to find out. Damiano kissed her forehead. I can live with that. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. They went inside as rain started falling, soft, steady, washing the city clean. In Chicago, the Castelli Empire continued without its king, managed by professionals who'd learned from mistakes, slowly transforming into something almost legitimate, the trauma center. Selena had imagined opened and saved lives daily. Anonymous funding ensured it would survive for generations. Lucien Castelli worked his odd jobs and survived his exile and slowly learned that nobility of birth meant nothing without nobility of character. Viviana rested in the family mausoleum beside a husband who'd probably never loved her. Her tombstone said nothing about the empire she'd protected or the son she'd tried to kill. Just dates and a name. And in Lisbon, two people who'd died and been reborn lived quiet lives. Ran their cafe, helped their community. Fought less frequently as the years passed and peace became habit instead of aspiration. Sometimes Selena woke from nightmares about the night she'd killed Raphael Barone. Sometimes Damiano disappeared into his office and emerged hours later looking haunted by ghosts only he could see. But they talked about it, worked through it, survived it the way they'd survived everything else. Together. On their 10th anniversary, they returned to the beach in the Algarve, built another fire, talked about the decade they'd survived and the decades they hoped remained. Do you think we'll ever stop looking over our shoulders? Selena asked. Honestly? No, I think part of us will always be waiting for the past to catch up. That's depressing. That's realistic. But it doesn't mean we stop living. It just means we live carefully. I can do careful. You? Careful? The woman who argued with a mafia boss in front of a restaurant full of witnesses? That woman was an idiot. That woman was brave and stubborn, and exactly what I needed. Selena leaned against him, watched the fire burn. I'm glad you noticed me that night. I'm glad you dropped those plates. It was a terrible accident. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. They sat in comfortable silence while the ocean performed its eternal ritual. Two people who'd found each other in darkness, built something in the light, and somehow, against every odd, survived to tell the story. Not to the world. The world didn't deserve their story, but to each other, in quiet moments, on balconies overlooking rivers, in cafes filled with locals who didn't know the truth. They told their story through the lives they lived, the choices they made, the people they helped, and that was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The rain continued falling on Lisbon while they slept, and in the morning they woke to sunlight and coffee and another day of being alive. Together. Always together. Until the end.